I started this podcast. I was watching and listening to yours a lot, like the Dana one, the very first podcast you did with Dana.
One. Yeah,
I was like, it hooked me because Dana's a good friend.
Yeah,
and then when you had on, let's see, Jesse and Dana again.
Yeah.
And then I just listened to your most recent one with the vegan cyclist.
Yep.
And that was an interesting, I had some follow-up questions on that, but that was a very interesting pod. But before you took like a big break.
Yeah.
And that's before that, I had considered going into this space for a long time because I was doing like fully produced videos under the banner of the Seasoned Bikepacker.
Yes.
So I started like this YouTube channel, and I wanted to just do like bikepacking related content.
Yep.
More like I would say more like bikepacking.com style content.
Yeah.
Like top 5 tool tips and like fully produced videos.
Yeah.
And then I started doing recording my bikepacking adventures and then producing videos that kind of told the story of the adventure.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed those. But like it's all so much work in shooting and editing. I was spending all my time like just editing.
Yeah.
For like the weekend would just be like me editing.
And you have a wife?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have kids.
Okay. But still.
Yeah.
When you're like, wait, what are you doing? Oh, I'm editing my video.
Dude, and I wasn't riding my bike, and like I was spending 16 hours a weekend, and I have a full-time job other than this. So like, you're a busy man too.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of stayed away from the podcast space, but I'd always thought about it. And then you took that big break, and I was like, I think I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
Because I thought you were done.
Yeah.
I thought you were just done with the project.
Yeah. No.
And so I decided to go in and be like, it's a different model. You have very different guests on.
Mm-hmm.
You're able to access people because you do it on Zoom.
Yes.
That you can access like the winners of these like Unbound XL, like the gravel race.
Yeah.
These like top flight, like high end athletes.
Yeah.
A lot of them, right? And my idea was like, I'm going to go into the bike packing space kind of.
Yeah.
And like the running space because I got more into running.
Yeah.
Over the last 2 years. Because my wife's an ultra runner. So I started running with her more.
My wife's an ultra runner.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So
we've
got so much in common. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So like, so then you re-released an episode and I was like, oh, I guess he's not done.
Yeah.
I hope I'm not like stepping on his toes or anything. But then I thought, you know what? Like, honestly, a rising tide like raises all boats.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't competition. We both have very unique audiences and different like people that we cross over a little bit.
Yeah.
But like, dude, there's enough stories to tell.
Oh my God.
That like,
yeah,
it'll never end.
No, I watch all your stuff because your Instagrams are sick.
Oh, thanks.
Dude, they're so professional. Like I want to get to that one day. And no, not for 1 second. Whereas I like, oh, this guy's like totally making a podcast in Flagstaff.
Okay, good.
How dare him? No. Because what it started was I was a lacking sense of purpose in my life. Like I was in college, I kind of was really lost. And so I got into like, I took a bunch of mushrooms once.
Yeah. You went on a fucking vision quest.
And it fucking changed my whole life.
Really?
Oh, dude. So, like you asked my friends, like before, it was November 11th, which is crazy. Like 11/11 was the day that my life changed.
Whoa.
You asked my buddies like Quinn before that day and Quinn after that day. And it was like, they would say it was an immense change. Love, compassion, just like everything changed. My ego, just dissolved. Because I was like, what am I? I've been putting on this mask and this front. I was always an athlete, like a college hockey player, all this stuff. So I needed to be someone. Like I was in the gym. I was really big and I wanted to be the biggest. Like it was so toxic. Took these mushrooms.
Was that your first time?
No.
Had you had experience before with psychedelics?
We made some shroom dillas.
Okay.
Put them in the microwave.
Shroom dillas?
I don't know. Yeah, but we put these things in the microwave. And like it wasn't even a lot. Like that's what was crazy. It was like half an eighth, which if you don't know, it's like half of a dose you would take to like really go on a shroom trip.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean it like hit us. It was me and my best friend who's actually gonna be conducting our wedding, you know, and like it threw me like into space. And it wasn't necessarily the shroom trip that was like life changing. It was when I was off of it. Like I came off of it and felt this like immense love and gratitude for myself and the moment, you know. It was like I wasn't even thinking about what I'm going to do next or like what I've done. It was like I was so present. I've never felt that in my whole life, you know.
How long did that last for, that feeling?
Year and a half.
Okay.
Like seriously.
Yeah.
I was like being awakened every day. Like I was like reading, and I read a whole book that night that I got off I literally sat in my bed and didn't sleep and read a whole book. Eckhart Tolle, The Power of the Now.
Yeah.
It just talked about how important the present moment is. And I thought I was like Buddha. I was like, what is going on with me? Like, I'm not sleeping, you know? I'm like, what is going on? I feel this immense perfectness. Like, I was like, I don't need to do anything. I'm like so happy with just being. Obviously, as time goes on, you start adapting to life. Life constantly changes.
Yeah.
But I got really into yoga, and I had this purposeful like life. And you know, I think when I bought the business, the Single Speed Coffee business and stuff like that, we were just struggling, you know. Me and my fiance, we were just like, we were pregnant. I wasn't making much money. I was stressed, and I was riding my bike a lot to deal with that, you know. And like it was just kind of like toxic. And we were in San Diego. Moral of the story, like the podcast got started because I was like in San Diego, and I told her, I was like, hey, I'm no more fucking around. Like I'm going to do a podcast, because I've been talking about it for a long time. And she was like, okay. I was like, do you support it? Like, she was like, yeah, absolutely. And I was like, it's not going to make any money, but I need purpose in my life. And like talking to people, hearing their story, that's what I wanted to do. I didn't want it to be about me. I didn't want it I just wanted it to be the Stoke, like to hear everyone's story. And it gets me stoked, and it's a cool way to build community. And like, so that's how the podcast got started, was like this lack of purpose, and then moving into like a life of purpose again, you know, with like having something to look forward to, of like, oh, I got this conversation that could touch a lot of people, because we talk about like alcohol and how that can affect like your home life, or how, you know, people get sober and then all like win a freaking bikepacking race, you know, like these really cool stories that like endurance is just a little bit of it, but it's like that bigger picture of like, whoa, it's not just the endurance. Like this guy or this girl, I mean, I had Chase Edwards on there.
Yeah.
She's like, her story was crazy, you know, it wasn't even about biking. It was just like her story to like getting out of this crazy psychosis. I mean, so
yeah.
And then it just, it's my spiritual, it's like a spiritual practice again, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of mirror a lot of that, especially the purpose. For me, I think that the podcast provides like a reason for me to be social as an antisocial kind of person.
Yeah.
And it's like, where else would I be able to? Well, it gives me an excuse to contact people and say, hey, Quinn, do you want to come into my tent, shut your phone off, and have a 3-hour conversation? Yeah. Like, when does that happen anymore? You know what I mean? And it has helped me to grow my network a little bit, like friend network and contact network. And it is like scratches an itch inside of me that I kind of was avoiding for a long time, because I come from alcoholism and had issues with alcohol for a long time. And endurance sports replaced that when I quit drinking. And so I've gone through that process, right? And then I kind of got to a point in my and I'm not like a fast rider. That's where I got into bikepacking, because I could get good at all the other stuff.
Yeah.
Not just being fast. And then I kind of got faster over time.
Yep.
Not like your level of fast, but like I can at least endure over multiple days. And it put me in a decent I went from like last place like 5 years ago to like knocking at the door of top 10 on these bikepacking races, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
like riding with people like Dana has just made me better because
Yeah.
he's just like such a fast and like relentless rider. I don't know, maybe that's the best word for him is relentless.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah.
Because he's just a savage. But and then I kind of topped out at my job. I kind of like reached the high point. There's not really, I need to change careers if I'm gonna like make more money or move up the ladder more. I kind of hit a point, and then COVID kind of happened all at the same time,
Yeah.
you know? And that's when I decided to start the Seasoned Bikepacker was when all this stuff kind of, I don't know, came to a head, I guess. And then I was like, you know what, I'm going to get back into video. I'm going to start this stuff. I'm going to start to self-produce. And yeah, it did feel kind of selfish and self-serving, the Seasoned Bikepacker content. It was very like, I'm going to tell you what my top 5 tips are on this. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it was like, who the fuck am I?
Yeah.
Like, I've been only doing this for like 3 or 4 years. I don't know what I'm like. I had like imposter syndrome big time, but it just didn't feel like good, the stuff I was producing, you know? And that when I got to the podcast, I was like, oh, this is it. I'm going to change from the Seasoned Bikepacker to the Endurance Studio. And this is going to be about letting other people have a platform to tell their story or give a tip or talk about this thing or so that it can help other people out. Cause I feel so like indebted to the community of people that have helped me get to where I am today. Like learning, like I've come up with no novel ideas in bikepacking. I've stolen my ideas from everybody else. You know what I mean? Like I just look around and see what other people are doing and talk to Dana or talk to my friend Tyler or whatever. And like I don't come up with this stuff myself. I just steal it. And so I feel like I have an obligation to like pay that back in the form of information on the internet. You know what I mean? And with podcasting, I mean, I like, dude, I was listening to Joe Rogan like way long time ago, like early days, right? Like I've been listening to Rogan for like 10 years or something. And I always have believed that podcasts are the freest form of content you can put out there. It's the least compromised form of content, I think. Yeah. Because it's like the Wild West of information. Yeah. You know, some of it's good, some of it's bad, but it's free. Yeah. It's not influenced by advertising. Yeah. Because I got my degree in broadcast television and advertising.
So you know.
I hate advertising.
Yeah.
But it's a natural, it's not natural, it's a required part. Unless you have a subscription model. Yeah. You got to have ads. Yeah. Right?
So even like professional bike racers probably hate advertising, but they're giving you the free stuff. They're giving you the fuel. They're giving you entry fees. So yeah, it's almost a part of everything, you know?
It is. Yeah. And then it slides into being compromised once you're controlled by your sponsors. Yeah. Right. And that was the one thing that I thought very long and hard about the Seasoned Bikepacker and the Endurance Studio was, how am I going to approach, if this thing gets popular and I'm able to coordinate sponsors, how am I going to approach that sponsorship relationship and still be true to saying whatever I want and talking about whatever I want and being able to just like walk away one day or have a sponsor leave and it not financially affect me to the point where I have to be reliant on them to keep running my podcast. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Totally.
So, cause like I didn't want to be indebted to them. Right. Yeah. So I was like, okay, I'm going to pick sponsors that, well, right now I don't actually technically have any like paid sponsors.
Yeah. Neither do I.
am an ambassador for Squirrels Nut Butter. Yep. And then there's a couple companies that I like really love to promote, but they're not paying me. Yeah. I'm doing it for free. You know what I mean? Just because I love them so much. Yeah. And so I'm trying to figure out, like, as I get into the next phase of this, how do I make sure it's very clear to my sponsors that, like, I want them to be ride or die with me. Yep. Know what I mean?
Yeah. With whatever you say, whoever you have on the podcast, it's yours.
Right.
And like, it's free to have your version of the conversations. Rather than, hey, we have a guy that we want to be on your podcast. Right. And you guys need to talk about this. Yep. Well, it's boring. No. What does he do? No. Or, like we choose the people on our podcast because either we connect with them on some level or someone refers them to us.
Right.
It says, like Dana's like, dude, you need to talk to this person.
Right.
I'm like, if Dana says I need to talk to someone, they've probably got a crazy story and
Yeah.
I want to hear it, and it's selfish because I want to hear these stories, but what's great is you throw it out into like the webiverse,
Yeah.
the interverse,
Yeah.
and like everyone can listen to that story.
Yeah.
Like like I've had people, we talked about, I had Devin Pia. He's actually a buddy of mine, and he was like the one that really got me into like, you can do 40 miles really fast.
Yeah.
Like he got me into that kind of riding. And, he went sober really young. I mean, I think he was like 23, 24 when he went sober because he had that problem. And so we going on our rides, we just talk about it and stuff like that. And so I actually had him on the podcast. I haven't seen him in like 8, 9 months, 10 months. And we talked about alcoholism, and some random person reached out to my Instagram podcast feed and just was like, hey, thank you so much. Like, I listened to your podcast, blah, 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 blah. She didn't even, not one thing about bikes on her. We reached someone
Mm-hmm.
that didn't even ride bikes.
Yeah.
It was just like, it was the conversation that we touched someone because of that. And ever since then I was like, I need to continue. Like, even though like long breaks happen, I just know it's like, it's still going to be around because there's going to be that one person who listens and it resonates with them. And that's all that keeps me motivated to keep doing it, was we reached someone
Yeah, dude.
who like thanked us to like be vulnerable.
It's so fucking fulfilling.
Yeah.
I've had that a couple times too, where people say, this helped me, or this is inspiring. And I'm like, that feels so good. What about the bad comments? Do you get like
No,
negative comments?
not yet.
Because I've produced a couple videos, mostly season bikepacker stuff. So I produced this video on air tags
Yeah.
on bikes.
Yeah.
Like to try and prevent bike theft when you're bikepacking. And it blew up. Like I didn't expect it. It was kind of a throwaway video for me, but it got like 130,000 views. And I was like, holy shit, what I've created this beast. And some of the comments, dude, are just like, like at first I would get a little offended by some of them. And then it got to a point where there were so many comments that I just like, it kind of was entertaining to go see some of them because people are just, I don't know, wild. But that's not like, that wasn't a podcast video. That was like a produced video where I like had an opinion on something, you know what I mean? And so it was kind of like, I was asking for it a little bit on something like that.
But you didn't know because it was a throwaway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, it was totally like, well, I actually went down a rabbit hole on, I was trying to figure out a solution for what would happen if my bike got stolen while I was resupplying on a bikepacking ride. Like what would actually happen? What would I do? Would I call the cops? Would I chase some tweaker down or whatever that was running off with my bike? Cause like people talk about that. You're like at the Maverick in Cottonwood or whatever, and you have a $5,000 Epic Evo sitting out in front with no lock on it.
Yeah.
For 30 minutes. You know what I mean? There's
Yep.
a good chance that if you're in the wrong time of day, that bike's going to get lifted.
Yep.
So I was exploring the idea of what are the security options for that. And if you put an air tag on, would it actually, number one, would you be able to locate it through the network of, like, air tags they work off of like the network of iPhones. So they have to be around other iPhones. So that was technically, was it possible for that to work? And then the second part of it was legally, if I call the police and we go to where the air tag is, are they allowed to like go in and whatever? Like, is that enough evidence for an officer to go in and extract a bike?
Yeah.
And it's not. They're not. So it backs up against search and seizure constitutional issues. You can't just like let's say like somebody steals your bike, takes it to like a storage unit. You can't just like go in that storage unit looking for the bike, even though the air tag, even though you have proof that your bike is inside there. The officer can't just go in there.
Really?
Yeah, they have to have permission. Yeah. Like that's part of the Constitution. So like there's a big issue there, right? So like you could have an air tag and you could know exactly where your bike is, but legally you have to go through the due process to get it out. Now what the police officer could do is they could knock on the front door of the person's house and say, look, we know you have something in there. We know you have this bike in there. It belongs to this person here. And they could say, fuck you, officer.
Yeah.
And the cop can't do anything.
Unless they have to go and probably get a warrant.
Yeah.
Which that's
Takes
a lot of time.
Your bike's
going
going to be in pieces or gone by then. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or the person that answers the door could have a panic attack and be like, yeah, I'm sorry, here's the bike. Or you could say, I'm not going to press charges. We just want the bike back. But the possibility of recovering your bike is shifty because of constitutional laws in the US, right? Which is very interesting. So I went down this rabbit hole, dude, on this whole thing. Yeah. And then I was just like, all right, I'm going to put this on the internet for everybody else to like, whatever, give their opinion on. And then it just like, dude, I was like, what? And everybody's like, it got into all these, there's all these like legal trolls going back and forth in the comments. And it was just totally out of control.
Yeah. What was the worst comment? Did you get like F this guy?
Yeah. Well, I would say it wasn't like insulting comments. It was more just like a lot of misinformation, like people just not knowing what they're talking about with the different technology. And I think that's why that video was so popular, because it was like technology based. Yeah. And it was a much bigger like market than bikepacking. Bikepacking is so small.
Yeah.
That all my other videos get like 800 views. You know, even the well-produced videos, they get like maybe 1,000 views. They're just not that big.
Yeah.
But then this one just like
blew up.
Yeah. And I was like, all right. So, but anyway, yeah, I want to go back to a couple things you said earlier. So your sponsorship, so the feed, right?
I kind of just threw my application out there and like they kind of your race results and what you do. And I put my podcast on there and everything. And, yeah, they like responded back and gave me like a sponsorship. So they give me a stipend 4 times a year to buy, or 5 times a year, every 2 months, 6 times a year. They give me a credit to go onto the website and order whatever I want, which is great because I get to choose what fuel, because I've got to try so many different things.
Yeah.
So now I know what on the feed, I know what I like and I know what I don't like. And so I get a credit, and I get my wife or my fiance, we get protein to the house. We don't have to pay for protein. We don't have to pay for endurance mixes. So, it's kind of, it sucks that they're such a big company.
Yeah.
And like,
yeah,
but they're professional, and they give me every 2 months, I get a credit. They send me an email. They send us updates. They send us June activities. We are marketers. That's why athletes get sponsored.
Right.
It's because,
yeah,
even though I'm not like, oh my God, well known, or, but in Flagstaff, I mean, people probably are like, oh, I've seen Quinn's KOM on like Schultz to Broadside, or whatever.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. We kind of have that platform in a way, but so yeah, that's like my sponsor for fuel that like has been just really consistent.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you're fucking fast.
Thanks, dude.
So like, how long have you been, so you're like a pro cross country and gravel racer?
Yeah. I mean, I race pro, I wouldn't say I'm pro.
What is it? Category 1?
Pro. I race in the pros. Yeah. Okay. But I don't get paid. Is that the same
as category 1? I don't know much about
Yeah, Cat 1.
Okay.
Yeah. Pro Cat 1. And I really started riding in 2020.
Really?
Yeah. I had a background in BMX racing, dirt jumping. So I've always been good on my bike. I've just never, I grew up in Gunnison, Colorado. So, Dave Weens, he was like 6-time national champion, 4-time Leadville champ, mountain bike Hall of Fame. He lived 3 doors down from me. I played hockey with his son. I grew up with his son. So I grew up in that, like that was normal. is to just live next to a Leadville champ, you
Yeah.
know?
That
My
helps.
my dad was a single speed rider. He did like 24-hour races. You know, kind of the guy like drink beer after, but you know, he would go on rides. I remember coming home from school and being like, okay, dad's not home because my parents were divorced. Be at my dad's house. Dad's not home. The first thing I'd do is go where his Camelback is. Camelback's gone. He's on a ride. He'll be back in like an hour. And they'll come back and ask him. And I thought it was crazy. Like, yeah, I just did like 26 miles on the single speed. I was like, what? You did 26 miles, Dad? Yeah, you like. He'd always be like, you want to ride? I'm like, fuck you. I'm not doing that. Because, you know, I was a baseball player, hockey player, football player. I wanted to be, you know, doing the team sports.
Yeah.
You grow up. But anyway, my dad gave me, so I brought a full suspension to college and it got stolen. We were talking about, yeah, fucking got stolen. I had a lock on it and everything, you know, and I just trust people too much. I'm like, whatever, it's not going to get stolen, but it got stolen. And I'll never forget from my birthday, my dad, he was like, well, here you go. And he gave me a single speed. It was like an old Yeti big top, like a carbon seat stay, a prototype fork. So like it was like kind of a shitty fork and it was a single speed. And so I started kind of riding. I wouldn't say like I was riding, but I would ride the single speed. And I mean, that's when I first started like getting into like the longer stuff here and there. And then 2020 hit. I sold the single speed for Trek fuel. You know, it was like kind of a bigger bike, but it had gears. And that's when I found Strava. And so I only used Strava to like track my rides.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, what? I got a trophy. I was like, huh. I looked at the trophy. And I was like, oh, I got third on this segment against Dave Weens, Brian Smith, like these guys who I've always looked up to be like the fastest guys in the world. And I just like top three'd them on a normal ride.
Yeah.
And then I was like, whoa, let me try this segment. Whoa, I got the KOM. Oh, let me try this. Whoa, okay, I got another top 10. I might be good at this sport, you know? And as I'm like going, then I got a lighter bike. And then I signed up for the MBAA, was my first race. Like signed up for an MBAA and I think I did the expert class. No race experience. I think I took like 6th, you know? And like,
damn,
I was
dude.
like, fuck that. I'm never going to take 6th ever again.
Yeah.
And came back and I think I won the next 2 expert races. And I was stoked on the expert races. I was like, whoa, I just won those. And after the MBAA season ended, I signed up for the Stagecoach. I signed up for like Firecracker 50, like some of these big races. And I just decided like Firecracker 50, I said, fuck it. I'm going to sign up for pro.
Yeah.
I'd rather be, you know, the shit of the king, or I always fuck this one up.
I don't know
the
this
king,
one.
So I'd rather be the shit of the kings rather than the king of the shits.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
I'm
putting that in your bio.
Yeah, I'd rather get stomped by the pros than win the expert.
Yeah, sure.
So I've always to get to where I'm at today.
Yeah.
I put myself in those shoes. I trained like them.
Yeah.
I was dedicated like them.
Mm-hmm.
That's just how I've always been with weightlifting, hockey. I mean, I played collegiate hockey. Whatever I did, I knew I was going to put my feet in the bigger guys' shoes because then I know how to get there.
Yeah.
I hung out with them. I asked them about things.
Sure.
What does it take to become fast? And then I just started I won the Stagecoach, which was huge. That was
What year was that?
21, I think.
You're talking the Stagecoach 100 from
100.
Flagstaff to the Tucson in the Grand Canyon.
Yeah. I did it on a hardtail 90 mil fork.
Was that couldn't have been the year it was all muddy?
No, it was.
It was that mud year?
Yeah.
Okay, I remember that year. I took that year off.
You did?
From it. Yeah.
It sucked.
Yeah.
The reason my time was so long, because I had a time in mind to go sub 7.
Yeah.
And I think I hit like 7:42. But like it started hailing on us and I had nothing. And I was freezing cold. Neck was absolutely torn to pieces for keeping your head up for so long.
Yeah.
And then we hit the final stretch AZT into Tucson, and like you couldn't pedal. Like I remember getting into the mud, and my bike was like at the time it was like a 23-pound bike. It was an XC bike. It was like 52 pounds just with how much mud was caked on the wheels.
Yeah.
And then I put it onto the grass because it's kind of a ditch that you kind of ride through. But
Yeah.
I rode on the grass, and I could kind of start riding a little bit. And then as you ride, yo,
What's up?
and as I
Savage. That was Cruz Blue. Just gave us a flyby.
Cruz,
Shout out Cruz.
He's 15, finished the fuck
Pinions and Pines.
Yeah. Like stellar.
Dude, this going off topic. So we just rode the Aspen Asphyxiation, the Arizona Endurance Series.
Yeah.
2 weekends ago. And I was following Cruz through the rock garden coming down from Fisher Point.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about? And I was trying to follow his line, and dude, I ate shit so hard right behind him. I went off my bike. I smacked my head on a rock. I pinched my lip between a rock. I was all bloody. That was the last time I saw Cruz Blue. Was like,
no way.
Yeah. And he just, he was like, yo, you okay? He looked back, and I'm in pieces. My bike's over there. He's like, you okay? And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I don't have to go to the hospital. I don't know if I'm okay, but I don't have to go to the hospital. Yeah. He's like, all right, see you later.
Damn.
Anyway.
Yeah, I coached him.
Oh, really?
Dude, he was always the sweetest kid. Like, I mean.
So impressive on Pinions and Pines for his first bike packing race.
He's honestly, dude, his balls haven't even dropped. To be like that.
Yeah. He doesn't even have that full testosterone
No,
yet.
dude. I was just talking about this last night with Kenzie. I was like, some of these kids who are really fast.
Yeah.
That are 14, 15. My balls didn't drop till I was like 16.
Yeah.
But man, when you get that little boost of testosterone in puberty,
he's going to be
they will smoke all of us. Because if they're putting their feet in our shoes.
Yeah.
And as soon as their puberty hits, we're going to have to start putting our feet in their shoes because they're just going to be they have an expectation. They're trying to meet it.
Yeah.
Without a boost. I mean, testosterone that's why bodybuilders take it.
Yeah,
I'm not promoting taking testosterone,
yeah.
But when puberty's going to hit and that kid's going to be flying.
I love it, dude. So I love seeing these young kids in bikepacking because it kind of seemed to be reserved to like, I don't know, there just was an old dude club kind of for a while in bikepacking, and it's changing over time. Because it kind of started with like these, pioneers, I guess, like Scott Morris, Kurt Ruffsnyder. Let's see, there were a few more that were like kind of the original bikepackers, and now it's kind of branching out into all these different genders and young people and ages, and it's just really cool to see like the next generation of bikepacking coming, because it's changed from when it started for sure.
Yeah, it's like a movement. I could see it too.
Yeah. And COVID was part of that, right? Getting more people into bikes and then therefore into bikepacking.
Yeah.
Right? So it really changed the face of it. And I just love like seeing the Cruz in Eden. There's a kid named Eden Teege.
Yeah.
Do you know him? Have you heard that name?
Yeah.
He did the Stagecoach 400 and finished a few years back. And he's younger. He was like 13.
Yeah.
Dude. Yeah. Balls definitely haven't dropped.
No. No. And like, I think of myself when I was 13, dude, I was playing Modern Warfare 2 with my fucking buddies with a headset on.
Yeah. Like, I was playing Halo, I think.
Yeah.
No, that was maybe a little
Dude,
before.
I was quick scoping, man. I was in the quick scoping king club.
Drinking Mountain Dew, did you say?
Oh, yeah. Clan. I was in
Code
a clan.
Red.
I had a clan, man. I was like.
Clans.
Yeah. Do you remember that?
I remember clans.
Get on your buddy. We even had a little group chat with our flip phones. Yeah. Yo, you guys gonna hop on 5? Let's go to Rust.
Yeah.
Let's warm up. Warm
Dude,
up
that's
what?
hilarious.
My fingers?
Yeah.
Like what?
There is an argument though that probably led to some pretty solid eye-hand coordination that now translates over into cross-country racing.
Oh, 100%.
Because like there is so much engagement, hand-eye coordination engagement in cross-country racing.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. So when you ride like these fast races, do you pick lines that are like the least amount of energy output? Are you actively like thinking about that kind of stuff.
Unless I want to throw a sick ass tail whip.
Yeah.
But yeah, mostly
Yeah.
it's like I'm the path of least resistance. Like I'm always choosing the path of least, even uphills. Like I'm always choosing the easiest and flattest uphill. That makes no sense, but
Yeah.
who's ever listening can be like, oh dude, that makes complete sense. Like even so I train like I race. People like sometimes don't like training with me because I pin it.
You just hammer.
Because how fun is that?
Yeah.
I don't think I'm not saying anything bad about long endurance rides or whatever, but and don't get me wrong, I do some long endurance rides, but most of that endurance ride is pinning it.
Yeah.
And so I want to bonk before the endurance hits. You know, I want to fatigue my whole body before like I slow down. Like I want my body to slow down for me to slow down.
So on like 100-miler, where are we talking? So you're pinning it what for the first 35, 40 miles?
60.
Okay.
Then it's survive.
Okay.
Yeah. But like that's kind of, I mean, to keep up
Totally.
with some of these racers, you need to pin it. Thank you.
Yeah.
You need to pin it right from the start. And I've learned my lesson. You don't start a ride at just casual in a pro race. Even if it's a 50-mile mountain bike ride, you don't just, everyone doesn't just kind of go into a Peloton, get on the single track, kind of start feeling the groove. It starts to increase. No, it's off to start a XC race. Like we're pinning it. And that's how you can tell who's not the fastest, but who's got the legs to go 45 miles and then survive the last 5.
Yeah.
It's there's no, we're going to keep it at 120 beats per minute for 2 hours. And then the last hour, I'm going to hit 150 beats per minute. No, I'm 175 beats per minute from the time the gun goes till the time I finish. Yeah.
Do you go off of power and heart rate?
I have no power meter.
Just heart rate.
Just heart rate. I had a
Do you
power
wear a
meter.
strap or a watch?
Strap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More accurate.
More accurate. And I mean, I've never had a power meter on my mountain bike, and I want to see what those numbers would be like, because I've had a power meter on like my old gravel bike that I sold.
Mm-hmm.
And
Which one was that?
it was a Niner RDO RLT. I sold it for like $800, dude.
And you bought a Revel Rover?
Yeah.
I saw that.
Yeah.
I have
dude.
the exact same bike.
You do?
Yeah. I have the same color.
You do?
Yeah.
Dude, then I've seen you. I've
Yeah.
like, okay, because when you have your stuff, like when people have their stuff on, you're
Yeah.
like, you just don't recognize them. But
Yeah.
it's like, damn, that guy's got a sweet bike.
Yeah, I bought it off my friend Tyler.
You did?
I love it. I had a Canyon Grizzle
Mm.
before that, and I didn't like it so much. I don't know what about it. They just said Canyon does some weird shit. Like, you know, like remember that double handlebar thing they had for a while?
Yeah.
Where they had like they had like two handlebars on like a road bike or on a gravel bike. It was weird. They like engineer this weird random shit, and sometimes it catches on and sometimes it doesn't. And they had like a special seat post thing where it's like a plastic sleeve, and you tighten one bolt in the back, and it's supposed to like compress the sleeve down or like push against it.
Yeah, I hate that.
Yeah, it's not a traditional clamp.
Yep.
Even though it's all carbon, and it kept slipping down.
Mm-hmm.
It's like stupid.
I was on a ride with someone who had the same kind of thing, and
Yeah.
it was on a different bike, and they couldn't get it to stay.
Yeah.
I'm like,
It sucked. It was like, just do what works, which is a normal traditional seat post
Yeah.
clamp, and you can use carbon.
Or put it through a bunch of tests before you throw
Yeah.
it out, because
Yeah.
the worst is if your dropper doesn't pop back up on a mountain bike ride. It's the worst
Yeah.
to not have a seat right where you need it.
Yeah, so I ditched that. I put like a year and a half on that bike, and then I sold it, and I took all the parts and bought the frame off of my friend, the Rover frame.
Yeah.
And dude, the Rover is like, so you can tell it's built by mountain bikers.
Yep.
It's like a gravel bike built by a mountain bike company.
Oh yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah. I mean, I can hit single track on that thing, and it's meant to. I've been in kind of contact with Revel,
Yeah.
and weirdly, because I had the single speed coffee trailer, and I go to like 24 Hours of Old Pueblo and all this stuff.
Yeah.
This lady, I had the Revel on the back because I like just go on rides. We take a break, like an hour break, and Kenzie does like a big trail run. And I just go do like an hour and a half sprint on my bike.
Yeah.
And so this lady comes and she's like, whose Revel is that? And I was like, oh, that's mine. She's like, I used to work for Revel.
Awesome.
I was like, sweet. So I designed that frame, like the look of it, the way it is, all the cool, like, because Revel, it's not just like a circular, bottom tube and a circular top tube. I mean, it's very like geometric.
Yeah.
She was the one that made that frame all geometric and cool, and the offset like seat stay.
Yeah.
Like how
She designed
all that.
Oh, that's so cool.
I was like, what?
That's
of
cool.
Of course, that's what Single Speed Coffee Trailer brought me into contact with a bunch of really dope people. But so she was like, yeah, it was designed to ride single track. I was like, that's sick. So she even said, like, we designed this bike to ride single track. It's for mountain bikers. Like, like even the angle of the fork is a little bit steeper.
Yeah, the rake, right?
Yeah,
the rake of the fork.
The rake of the fork is meant to mimic kind of that of a mountain bike fork.
Yeah.
So I mean,
you have carbon wheels on yours?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's with tires do you run?
I've been running like the Maxxis. I put them on for BWR, and they're very like slick. The Maxxis, not the Recon. Ramblers.
The
Ramblers. I'm gonna put some chunkier ones on for flag, but
yeah, Ramblers are good.
They're great. I've been like riding road on them.
Yeah.
Like you can ride road, gravel.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a few times where I'm taking some corners up here, and that front tire like squeaks out a little bit. So I'm gonna put some beefier tires on there, just because flags, you got that lava rock, and especially when you like hit the washboards and everything.
Yeah.
Just a chunkier
Yeah,
one.
I was thinking of I got 45s on there now. I was thinking about putting 50Cs on there, Ramblers, and then a little lower tire pressure.
50C, that's a big one, huh?
Yeah, like almost up to 2 inches almost.
Yeah. I'm thinking about going bigger now. Like
I think 50 is the max on that frame.
If you looked at Unbound Gravel, everyone was kind of running way bigger tires.
Really?
Did you notice that?
I didn't.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was gonna ask about it.
I think. Unbound. Yeah. So I think. I think what's happening is that they're realizing that it's not necessarily the thickness of the tire that's going to be faster, because I go really fucking fast on 2.4s. So why not put 2 inches under a gravel bike?
Mm-hmm.
So Dylan Johnson, he has a YouTube channel. He's a feed athlete. People who are listening probably have seen him, but you should have seen his setup for Unbound. It was sick. He had some thick tires on a big old rim, and I think it was a 27.5, it was a 600 rim with, man, what looked like not a 2.1, but it was up there.
Thick.
And he did really well. I think so. I think it's kind of evolving, gravel biking, mountain biking, they're constantly, especially gravel biking.
Yeah.
They're evolving. They're like, okay, let's put skinny tires like road bikes, because road bikes are fast.
Yeah.
Let's put some knobs on it. They're like, oh, that was really good. Someone's like, well, I like a bigger tire. And they're figuring out, well, that's just as fast and smoother on a lot of stuff.
Totally.
But I think they're coming to like, you don't have to have the skinnier gravel tires like the 38s and 40s to be fast. I think you're going up to 45, 50s.
The washboards suck so bad over time that I would love to, like, I personally would go with a 50 and lower tire pressure just because of washboards.
Yeah.
Because that, like, just constant, especially on really long efforts, like 24-hour efforts, the last 6 to 8 hours of those efforts are just miserable on your hands and your head and your neck.
Yeah.
Because of the washboards.
Totally.
I mean, like, because I'm like from a mountain biking background, and I got a gravel bike like, I don't know, 2 years ago or 3 years ago. I hadn't ever ridden a drop bar bike before like 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And my friend Tyler was like, you should try it. he let me test ride that Revel Rover. It was the same one I ended up buying off of him, but he let me test ride it just to see. And I was like, this is fun. You can really like go fast and really get your heart rate up and like really cover a lot of ground.
Yep.
And it's fun. It's just different than single track mountain biking's fun, but like it's just different. And then I went and bought the Grizzle. But yeah, I think like 50. The frame manufacturers are now all kind of maxed out at like 50. Yep. But I think that you'll start seeing, based off what you're saying, you're probably going to start seeing a little bit wider frame clearance.
Yep.
On the back.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like kind of like the T3s. Have you seen those bikes?
No.
They're like really futuristic looking gravel bikes, but
like concept cars, but for gravel bikes.
Yeah, dude, they're really strange. Like they've got a really like aero big bottom tube. They're very like boxy, but they're designed. They're also able to like fit 2.2 on a 600, and you see a 2.2 tire on a 600 rim on one of these really geometric bikes, and it looks sick. Yeah. Like because there's like millimeters of clearance through where the tire fits, and it just looks like that thing can haul ass.
Except for if you're in mud, then it's a problem.
Yeah, exactly,
because you don't have any clearance.
Yep,
that's a factor.
Yeah,
interesting.
Yeah,
what were we talking about before the Rover? We just went off on 3 tangents.
We do.
But I wanted to go back on but I don't remember what it was.
Power
rate.
meter.
Yeah, power meter and
power
heart
meter.
Rate. Yeah.
Yeah, so I get too I think I get too caught up in the power meter. Cuz if I'm racing, I don't really look at my power. I just when I'm training, when I do have a power meter, I get so fixated on hitting a number or being at this certain wattage or trying to hit a max watt every single time I'm trying to ride my bike. I'm like, I just get fixated on it. And so what's great about like buying the new Rover and on my mountain bike, I just never had a power meter on my mountain bike.
You have Santa Cruz Blur?
Yeah.
It's a Blur.
It's a Blur. Yeah. The C.
That's a sweet bike.
It's a sick bike. Yeah. And I put a pike on it.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a little heavier, but
120,
bigger stanchions, a little heavier.
Yeah.
But dude, because I like racing longer. Like these XC races are fun, but I like 50 miles, 100-mile mountain bike races, and so I wanted something that would take on Mount Humphreys. Like I need a bike that's 4-flag.
Yeah.
And 110 millimeters. Yeah, I could rip, but after a while it hurts.
Yeah,
like
totally.
You're just like, okay, no more rocks, like going down Big Bang. Ouch. Dude, I put the pike on and I think I took like a top 5 down Big Bang.
Yeah.
Just it's a enduro bike on an XC frame. It's the most fun thing in the world. Like and that's evolving too, is people like one of my buddies who races pro, he just put a pike on his bike. So I think it's like we're kind of like figuring out new ways to like still be fast but more efficient on the downhills and the flats. Like it's so cushy, so when you're kind of bonked and your arms are tired, having that little extra give in the fork, or when I'm getting into bike packing, I want something that can take on 300 miles.
I almost bought a Blur that was one on the list for when I went from a tie hardtail to a full
So what do you have right now?
An Epic Evo, specialized Epic Evo.
Sweet.
It's got it's kind of the bike that I always wanted, but I didn't know I wanted it until I got it, and I was like, this just feels right. So it's full XTR, all Fox dropper, all the suspensions Fox. It's just like the pinnacle of what I wanted. And it's like 24 pounds, which is just, and it feels fast. It's just a great fast for me, like a capable. It's 120 up front. It's got the step cast Fox 120, which are incredibly light.
Yeah.
The only thing about the fork is they like, whatever year that was, whatever year that model, that fork came out, they narrowed the stanchions a
Oh,
little bit
yeah.
to save weight. So
Yep.
they shortened the crown up a little bit, and they actually moved the rotors. They like brought the rotor up inside of the step cast cutout.
Whoa.
Yeah, so there's like, you know, the cutout that like is supposed to save the weight. That's why it's called the step cast. The rotor actually sits up inside of that. So there's like barely any clearance, but it clears it. So I got 180 millimeter rotors front and back.
180?
180.
Dang.
Yeah, on a cross country bike.
Nice.
Yeah, and 4-piston XTR brakes. And it's 24 pounds. So like with a full bike packing load, the thing fucking rips.
I bet.
Like it's so much fun, dude. Like,
yeah.
Because I kind of was like, all right, I'm kind of, I had a Bronson and I was doing a lot of like trail and kind of enduro-y type riding, and then I almost killed myself too many times.
Yeah.
And I was like, I think this is out of my system now.
Yeah.
I cleared Highline one time, like didn't dab or anything on Highline, and I was like, okay, that's it. That's my claim to fame for myself.
Yeah.
I did it once. So I'm going to move into, I'm almost 40 now. I'm going to move into like the cross country 100-mile plus part of my life.
Yeah.
Bike packing, which has a whole different set of needs for a bike.
Yeah.
There's a variety. It's very debatable on what's the perfect bike packing bike. I think there is no perfect. It's whatever like you feel comfortable on for multiple days.
Yeah.
Right. But so I bought this bike, and because I had a Ripley before that and a titanium hardtail, and I basically bike packed on the Thai hardtail for a long time. And then I don't know, I just love the suspension for bike packing. It's so much more comfortable.
Yeah.
Over time,
yeah.
which is such a big factor. Comfort.
Mm-hmm.
More so than weight or any of those other things.
Yeah.
So
yeah, because it doesn't matter after 8-9 hours on the bike.
Dude.
You just want something. You're like
24, 48.
Yeah. You just want cush.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your butt probably hurts.
Everything, your whole perspective on what is comfortable and not, and just it all changes.
Yeah.
After a couple days, of being in it. So, and when you're sleep deprived and all that. So, but yeah, so that's, I love that stuff. I mean, I did, I'm surprised you don't do the Arizona Endurance Series stuff more.
So what is that?
So it's just like a total grassroots, loosely organized group of people that design and run. It's more of like a group ride. These races, they're like group rides / races.
Yeah.
All over Arizona. So there's a bunch down south in the wintertime, and then there's a few up here. There's one like in Tucson, and they're usually like 60 plus miles.
Cool.
I mean, it would be perfect. There's no money. There's usually like 12 people that show up. Sometimes there's like 15 people.
Yeah.
Sometimes the race organizers don't even really, I don't know. Sometimes they don't even show up. And it's just kind of like, here's the route. Here's a group ride.
Yeah.
But they're some of the hardest fucking rides I've ever done in my life, dude.
Really?
And they're, a lot of them showcase like the Arizona Trail, different sections of the Arizona Trail. So we just did one that I was talking about earlier, Aspen Asphyxiation, which was a huge loop that started at Fort Tuthill, and it was a 65-mile loop, and it basically went up, and you climbed all the way up to like Dry Lakes.
Yep.
Via
From like
single track.
It's like Snowball. Take a left.
No,
Arizona Trail.
No, you actually like you came up to Buffalo. You connected from Tuthill to Buffalo Park, and then Buffalo Park partially up Eldon Road, and then you went up Old Red Onion. I forget what the new trail is called.
Yeah.
And then kind of on Sunset to Dry Lakes, Oldham to Dry Lakes, and then Lunar Tide, and then it looped around the north side. So you took like Little Eldon over, and then you took Arizona Trail all the way down.
Yeah.
And then Walnut Canyon, and then
my favorite trail right there.
Really?
Dude, love it.
Which part? Which section?
I love the Flag Loop. I mean, just all those.
So it's part of Flag Loop we were on for a minute.
Nice. And then so you at Fisher Point.
Yeah, Walnut Canyon to Fisher Point.
Yep.
And then cross Lake Murray Road, and then we took like a network of like OHV trails all the way down to Kelly Pocket. Have you been down there? Yeah, and we did, and we finished basically on Kelly Pocket, and then came back up through Kachina. So it was just like it was a 7 hour. It took me like 7 hours and 2 minutes.
Damn.
Well, the first time I did it 2 weekends ago, I crashed really bad and I pulled out, and then I went back for redemption yesterday.
You did it yesterday?
Yeah, I was like, because I couldn't let it go, dude.
Yeah.
I was 20 miles from the finish when I crashed, and I couldn't let it go. I woke up the next 3 days thinking about it.
Yep.
And I was like, I'm gonna go back and do it.
Yeah.
Like, as long as my wrist heals up okay. So I went back and did it yesterday with a friend, and did it in like 7 hours or something. But anyway, these are like, there's no money or anything, or like nobody really has an ego. There's not a lot of bragging rights or anything. You know, it's just kind of like a group ride. But they're hard, dude. And they're fun.
So I think I saw that, and it's a website you can go and see where the races are and stuff.
Yeah, it looks like it's from the 90s, the website.
Yeah. So when I first started getting into racing, I looked it up, and I was going to go to one of them, but is the Sedona Big Freaking Loop one of them?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Dude, that's so hard.
I did that.
Did you?
So but it was during the COVID area. So no one showed up, and it was an individual time trial. Right. That's why I did the Sedona Big Freaking Loop.
Right.
Was because of the Arizona Endurance Series.
What'd you think of that?
Well,
that route.
At that time I had that hardtail 90 mil fork.
Ugh.
And
Ugh.
Yeah.
In Sedona.
Ugh. And I think so it's supposed to be self-supported.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I had my fiance meet me and just greet me halfway through.
Yeah.
And I think she gave me an apple.
Shame on you.
I know. I didn't know. I was like my first ever.
Yeah. I don't think anybody cares.
No,
dude.
But no, they reached out, man.
Oh, really?
And commented on my Strava post and said, because I posted a picture of my family, you know? And they're like, oh, this is supposed to be self-supported. This doesn't count.
I see.
I was like, I wasn't even doing it. I don't even care. Yeah. But I was trying to go for the FKT, you know? And I took a wrong route.
If you're ranking yourself against other people, then that's where it gets, you can't really. It's supposed to be self-supported as far as like, it gives everyone an equal playing field, right?
Yeah.
Because people who don't have access to having family members or support.
Yep.
That's the whole, because that's kind of the bike packing ethos, you know?
Yeah.
Is like fairness.
Yep.
So that's where that comes from. So I get it. Like, because that's part of what makes it so difficult is, should I go ride off course and get some extra calories?
Yeah.
Or should I try and tough it out? And it could have a big effect in that last like 20 miles.
Totally.
You know?
But I didn't know. You know, I was so brand new at that.
Yeah.
I even posted the pictures, you know, of my family and like was like, oh, this was so fun. And plus I went off course and I did a bunch of random like different trails because at the time I just used my Suntoe watch that doesn't have a GPS. So I really had to go off the top of my head. And so I didn't even do the actual route. Yeah. And so like it didn't even count anyway. But I just remember like being like, oh man, they really take this serious because they commented and it didn't count. But you know, in the future now as I race more, of course, I don't even think I would need a refuel on the Sedona bit because I know how to take all my stuff now.
Right.
I didn't even have a bag like of water. I like had one water bottle, you know.
That's way too little for that.
Yeah.
That course is, dude, it's gnarly.
Yeah, I think I finished back at Oak Creek. Obviously different course, but like 5 hours and 42 minutes to do 55 miles of Sedona. So 50,
that's like, for everybody listening, that's like 70 or 80 miles of regular riding. Sedona is it's so much. It's like I call it the Sedona ratio is 1.5. So everything, you just take Sedona miles and multiply them times 1.5. Yeah. That's the actual, what it feels like miles. Yeah. You know how there's like air temperature and wind chill temperature or the feels like temperature? It's the same deal, right?
It is.
It's the same philosophy.
I remember looking down at the GPS and being like, I have not gone faster than 11 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And 11 miles an hour is pushing as hard as you can. It's going over rocks. It's, you know, and by the time you're done too, your body's so torn up because you just did high line. You basically almost do the Triple H. Yeah. So
it starts on high line. It basically starts at Slim Shady and you go up and do high line.
Yep.
At the beginning of your, 55 miles or whatever. Yeah.
I thank God I didn't even, you know, hurt myself.
Yeah.
Like, cause you're just out there doing the hardest trail and you're doing the endurance side of it.
Yeah.
But I've been wanting to go back and try, you know, doing a redemption ride on that one. Cause I have a full suspension bike now, you know, and bunch of race experience. So I think it
You
would be
should, dude.
yeah.
You do good at him. Like
Yeah.
you're definitely like elite. It's mostly just like there's a lot of really, really good fast guys, but I think it's been declining over the years, like the amount of people that have shown up for some reason. I don't know why, but it's a really good way to see a bunch of stuff in Arizona.
Yeah.
Like there's a bunch of cool ones, man. There's one called Pleasantville that's in December that goes around Lake Pleasant. It's really fun, and it's, a couple hours from here. I just drive down in the morning and then do the loop. There's a new one that's going to be on the Mogollon Rim that's going to do part of the Arizona Trail High Line.
Yeah.
Have you been on that
No.
bit? So like just north of Payson,
Oh.
there's all that new Arizona Trail
Yeah.
that they redid. And I think it's like, I don't know the course, but I'm hoping it's going to be like a loop, like on top of Rim Road and then down on the Arizona Trail. And that bit's fun and challenging. And so it's just a cool way to see. It's free.
It's free.
Like you just got to get there
Yeah.
and buy your food for
Yep.
the event. So I like that because I'm kind of cheap when it comes to that stuff. Like
yeah.
I hate paying for races. And I don't know, like I got a bad taste in my mouth after the Bear Howard. I did the Bear Howard gravel race a couple times, and I'm going to try to avoid talking too much shit, but the guy like the course wasn't even signed correctly. It was like signed wrong or something, and I had a GPS. I had nav, so I knew to go the right way.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like, dude, I paid like, I don't know, $150 or something for this.
Yeah.
And then the next year, the aid station was set up in the wrong spot.
Oh, so there was no aid?
Yeah. And a whole bunch of people that weren't prepared were like relying on that aid. And it like became a big thing,
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
And then I had a buddy, because I was living in Cottonwood, and so a buddy came up with me to do the Bear Howard. I think it was like 2 years ago. And I flatted, so I had to back out because I flatted multiple times. I just couldn't get my tire to go back up.
That's where I first saw you. I remember now. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
I stopped and gave you a valve stem or something?
Yeah.
Or a valve stem remover?
Yeah, because I just, and I couldn't fix it.
Yeah.
Dude, I had sealant, I had CO2s, I had everything you can imagine, and besides a tube.
Right.
Because I never have to, like, and we talked about this the night before. I was like, he's like, oh, dude, should I bring a tube? And I'm like, no, man, light is fast. But
not then.
no, man, because I jinxed it. And every time you say it, like, you bring that tube. Like, if you even have to talk about it, bring it, because it, like, the universe knows, like, oh, you just said that you don't need a tube. Well, guess what? And so anyway, I had to back out. So I finally ended up getting a tube, but it was like an hour of me trying to coordinate with the Grand Canyon ride to Grand Canyon was going on at the same time.
That's
so I had to hike to their course and talking like, hey, does anyone have a tube? Blah, blah. And for an hour, and some nice guy came by and was like, yeah, dude, I have a few tubes. I'm like, sweet, because I was going for light, trying to get top 5 in the Bear Howard to now just trying to get a tube so I can like ride to the road and back to Flagstaff.
Yeah.
But my buddy, he went all the way because he didn't have nav. And he went all the way to almost Belmont, and he was at the gas station like to cross into like almost Williams. And so, there were a few, and it was hard as like, it's tough because I love Dustin, who puts on Bear Howard, and
I
he's
don't
like,
know him very well.
no,
Sorry, Dustin.
No, he's such a good guy, and what he's trying to do is he's trying to build a great race and a great community around it and stuff like that. But he even says to me, like, there's no one that wants to volunteer. So that's like, he tries to do it, trying to put on this amazing race around Flagstaff that no one's done. Like, no one's ever put on like a really sick gravel race around here.
Right.
But he doesn't have volunteers. So him and his fiance and their 3 little girls basically try to mark as much course, and then he has someone else go and mark because it's 100 miles around Flag, and he goes and tries to mark somewhere else, and then he tries to coordinate with one dude like where an aid station is. It's just he's learning, and it's just hard. Like, it's tough for that span of gravel roads to like get someone in the right spot and it sucks because like that's very important. You know, that's like an important thing you can't mess up. But I also because he put on the Ninth Planet mountain bike race.
Okay.
Stellar. You know, that one was like really well. Like the aid stations were right there, and it was the first ever mountain bike race that is in Flagstaff.
Yeah.
That goes around he got permits to do stuff that no one's ever gotten a permit to do. So, you know, it's just like, I get it. Like it's tough because you need an aid station. You need those course markings to be right. Like you do. Like that's like the important thing.
Well, look, I mean, like, so I'm the co-race director on Pinions and Pines. And so we know I have experience with a lot of this, like dealing with people and dealing with it from the director's end. Now we don't deal with permitting. We stand with a cap that requires permitting.
Yep.
I think for Bear Howard, you don't mark the course and you just require GPS. You just require nav for everybody. Yeah. That's also a solution for like the Stagecoach 100 running race.
Mm-hmm.
Like, cause I mark part of that course for the runners.
Yeah.
Just like abandon the course marking thing.
Yeah.
Almost everybody has the ability or access to get GPS navigation now.
Yeah.
It's really prevalent. It's almost like you could say like it's like excluding people that can't afford that, but it's like, come on, like there's a lot of required shit and money that goes into just like running and riding. Like you have to buy shit to be at a minimum level, right? Yeah. It's expensive.
Yeah. Well, and it's safe. It's a tool to be safe. I mean,
absolutely.
The reason I got a Wahoo and I switched from Santo was because I do not like being somewhere that I'm unfamiliar with. I like to create a route so that I know that these turns that I'm taking is going to get me back to safety.
Yeah.
Because it's backcountry. You know, we're going into the backcountry. And and I'm sure all those people who are like, well, hey, dude, fuck you, man. I don't have a freaking GPS Garmin. Well, do you have a fucking satellite phone?
Right.
In your back pocket called an iPhone? Or you do.
Right.
I guarantee you have a smartphone. You can use that.
Yep.
You know, like
it's less convenient, but like buy a nav.
You go to a fork, you get your phone out, boom, you take a left.
Right. I think that I think that a race like that and the length of that race can do that. If you're talking like a 25, 30 mile race or maybe like an MBAA race or whatever, those maybe have the resources to like flag everything.
Yeah.
They have the people. Now, another point I want to make about the volunteer thing, there's Aravaipa has done an amazing job at figuring out how to get people to volunteer for their shit.
Yeah.
Right? Like they are business people. They know what they're doing. The Cocodona is my wife's ran it twice. I've crewed for both times. It's an incredible logistical operation.
Yeah.
The live stream, the flagging, the aid station, and most of it is volunteers.
Yeah.
Right? So like I would suggest so their system for recruiting volunteers is they give credit. If you volunteer, you get a certain amount of credit, which applies for future Aravaipa events.
Yeah.
So like Dustin, do that. Like I'd go volunteer in an aid station if he would give me credit for a race, because I'm so cheap. I don't want to pay for a race.
Yeah. So this year you would volunteer at an aid station for a credit for next year.
Absolutely,
dude. That's a great idea.
Half off for next year.
That's a great idea.
You know what I mean? And you're gonna get people that'll help.
Yeah.
And then you'll get a bigger group of volunteers, and probably it'll mitigate some of the issues maybe that he had, because he's using people who maybe aren't as familiar or less invested.
Yeah.
Like if you ask me to volunteer, I'm going to be in the right spot unless you gave me the wrong information.
Yeah.
I'm passionate about making sure that I'm committed to the people that are involved in that event and that they're relying on me to get their shit. You know what I mean? So if you got people like that and you got a network of people and you just gave a credit to a future race, like you've lost my money basically at this point because of what happened in the past. I just don't want to do it because I just don't want to pay the money to not have it tidy.
Yeah.
Right. But I would, if I got half off, I might reconsider, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And I would volunteer and I would help you and it would be an exchange of services. And then you could like grow that network out. And
totally.
I would tell people that they could do that. And you're running the race anyway. You're putting people on it anyway. So I don't know. That's just my opinion on that stuff. That's what I would do if I was in charge of it. And don't get me wrong. I've thought about starting a gravel race in Flagstaff because there's just not enough. There's so much gravel roads around here, and there's only one gravel race. Like, and so Dana started the Verde Valley Randonnée.
Yep.
And that kind of like inspired me, like, you know, that there's so much opportunity there, but that's a different situation. Why haven't you done that yet?
Oh, dude. Good. Yeah. So,
I want to see you lay down a 24-hour time on that.
No, my goal is to go sub 20.
Yes.
That's like my goal.
That's doable.
So,
I beat like what Dexter just set the FKT?
Yeah. 18 something.
Dude.
Yeah. So
fucking
I think,
crazy.
You know, with like, anyway, so, racing and these big bikepacking adventures have kind of been on the back burner a little bit.
Yeah.
Just with, I'm a new real estate agent in Arizona.
Yeah.
So
saw that.
Yeah. So
congrats, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And so I'm also doing property management. So I'm really trying to build like a solid routine before I take a little bit of time off to go do a 18-hour effort.
Yeah.
You know, because man, that's all I want to do.
Yeah.
That's I want to go like get on my mountain bike and put a few bags on it and just go try to get the FKT.
You got a little kid too, yeah?
I have a baby. Yeah. So I have a almost 2-year-old at home.
Yeah. That's
we're getting married at the end of June, me and my fiance. So like life right now is just so crazy. I'm getting up at like 5:30 in the morning and getting my training in before work because I work till 5 and then I get home and I'm going to be a dad. So like,
welcome to adulthood.
Exactly. 100%. You know, I just can't go on a ride at 2:00, you know,
Right.
like I used to be able to. And so, I'm focusing on really trying to build my routine, my family, and my business life, to a stable enough point to where, and in real estate and property management has seasons. Right now we're in the busy season. Like we're constantly putting new tenants in homes where tenants are moving out, which then we have to move more tenants in.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking to owners. So May, June, July are going to be super busy. It's so hot in Cottonwood anyway right now that I wouldn't want to even put an effort in until probably September or November. Then I'm able to do that because that's when everything starts slowing down. So coming into the spring, when I had plans to do it, I think in March or April, I was in real estate school. I had a full-time job. I had a baby girl at home. I had a relationship to stay strong. So, you know, I think life, like I'm in a season of my life right now that I'm still fit. There's no doubt about that. You know, like if I were to go get on my bike and go try to do it right now, I could, but I want to get my endurance legs there by November so that when I go, I'm prepared. But yeah, so all this bikepacking stuff that I've been talking about forever, it's like we moved to Gunnison, Colorado with a trailer. Then we decided to move back to Flagstaff. Yeah. Then I had a job at the school. And then I was like, screw that. I'm going to go get my license. So my life has just been crazy since really I started the podcast. So that's why also the podcast kind of is like going on the back burner too. It's like I need to focus on certain things in my life that I still need to build a routine with all of the newness. Yeah. So that I can take on what I started, you know.
How old are you?
27.
Yeah.
So
you got a lot of pavement in front of you.
Totally. Yeah. But, you know, building, you know, as well as anyone, I mean, starting a podcast is no like easy feat. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like starting the podcast, like I had to dedicate, you know, a full day to an episode, like an hour, and I try to keep my episodes to, you know, an hour and a half because I had a baby to tend to. Right. And then after, you know, I would edit it and then just post it. But it's a lot of work to do that. And then so throw a full-time job, training, being a dad, it's kind of hard to fit that in. But the weekends, you know, are like now it's starting to open up where I can. But I've always wanted to do this, the face-to-face. Yeah. Because it's so much more natural. The Zoom thing for me was super, it's really hard. You know, I don't get that, like, I don't get to feel your energy. Right. Rather than like, I'm looking at them, you know, it's just, it's great and I love it, but it's not this. Right. You know, where we can just like.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword. COVID taught us all that, right? Mm-hmm. So like I work in an industry where I work at the university, and at Northern Arizona University, and everybody went remote during COVID.
Yeah.
And I'm like a person that's really good in maybe a group of 10 or less people.
Yeah.
I'm very like, I can connect with that group of people. Anything more than that, and I start to get a little anxious and uncomfortable. And I had a really hard time with Zoom. I had a really hard time I had to relearn how to like communicate on Zoom. And some people naturally just did it very well, right? And they're very good at it. But I discovered that like I rely on nonverbal communication way more than a lot of other people.
Yep.
And I couldn't really have conversations on Zoom. I was having like business related conversations. I was uncomfortable. It made me like exhausted by the end of the day.
Yeah.
Back-to-back Zoom meetings all day. I was like fucking exhausted, dude. And when I walked into a room and you're in person, it's like there's a vibe, you know?
Yep.
And so I recognized that was like important. Look, it's great that we have Zoom because now I work remote 4 days a week. And the majority of my meetings at work are on Zoom or on Teams, or they're virtual meetings, right? So it's really great that I have the freedom to do that. But the downside is sometimes important conversations should be done in person.
Yeah.
That's what I've discovered, right?
Yeah.
You can use it as a utility. Like we need to get these things done. We need to like hammer out these details. But like if you're trying to have just like a free flowing, I found it's better to be in person, right?
Yeah.
And so for me in this podcast, it's like I have to go or somehow logistically organize getting to those people now.
Yeah.
Which costs a shit ton of money and time, right? So that was the logistical challenge, right? I'm an endurance athlete. I don't do anything easy, including a podcast.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So right now I'm like figuring it out in that way. Like, okay, Pinions and Pines just happened. I had 60 people converge in one area, all from different states. And I was like trying to scoop up as many people as possible while they were in Flagstaff to talk to them, you know, because I was like, I don't want to drive to California.
Yeah.
You know, if I am going to drive to California, I want to do a race there. So like I'm doing Colorado Trail Race this August.
Sweet.
And I'm trying to coordinate a podcast on the front and the back of it, right? Because there's a couple people that live in Colorado that I want to talk to.
Yep.
And so it's a logistical thing. It's for you, it would be, I'm imagining, and you can maybe describe this process for me, but you probably reach out to someone on Instagram, maybe after they won a big race, like whoever just won. I forget who won Unbound XL.
Logan Casper.
Logan again, right? So he's been on your podcast before, right?
Yeah.
And you probably reach out to him, and then you organize a Zoom meeting, and then you can do it from the comfort of your house.
Yep.
And it's very comfortable for them too. It's very convenient for them too.
Yep.
So that's like all really, really good and convenient, but like, for me, there's some logistical downsides to it.
100%.
I'm just committed to this sort of model.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's, if I could do it differently, I mean, I've been trying to get mics and, you know, try to sit down and create I've tried to create a studio, and I've done in-persons plenty of times, but I didn't have the equipment to do it professionally. I mean, I connected 2 mics into a laptop, you know, for like GarageBand,
right?
You know, I just try to like wing it.
Right.
And like we'd sit down and the mics wouldn't work. And it would be like 30 minutes of me trying to figure out how to get his mic to work or her mic to work. And mine works. It was just so like, but Zoom, I could reach out to like, that was great. Like, to get someone like Tyler Pierce.
Right.
Dude, in a million years, I mean, he was the one that's like, selfishly was like, oh, I could get him on the podcast, and maybe it would, you know, he could filter it through his following, you know? It was more of a selfish kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well,
mutually beneficial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And we can go on to that if you want, of like getting him.
Yeah. Well, just, I'm curious, like how, was I right in describing your process? Like, how do you get a hold of these people?
Yeah. Well, that was, dude, the single speed coffee trailer.
Yeah. That was like a marketing machine.
Huge outlet.
Yeah.
I was at 24 Hours of Old Pueblo and he got a coffee from me.
Right. You talked about that on the pod.
Yeah.
Yeah, on his pod. Yeah.
So he got a coffee.
He started chatting, and then
yeah, and he he did the 24-hour solo after the race, and it's like, hey dude, how was it? Blah 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 blah. And we got to connect faces, and then I reached out via Instagram later because I didn't bring it up at that point because I really wasn't worried about the podcast at that point. I was like, oh fuck it, let me just reach out to him. But he's a bro, you know, like
I don't know.
He was a bro.
I don't watch much of his stuff.
No, yeah, it was interesting, you know. He was very much he was kind of off-puttish. Like I reached out and he was like, "Well, dude, you know, like I've had other podcasters like ask all these things from me, like I need to repost and this, and like I don't want to be doing." I was like, dude, I just want to have a conversation.
Yeah.
You know, yes, I know that you have a big following, but you've also done like these really cool adventures, like Ride Across America. You just did 24-hour solo. You're getting into ultra running.
Yeah.
So I did all of these different things. You know what I'm saying? And so that was like how I got interested in the first place. But then after a while, it was like very much just one-sided, you know, and like kind of.
What's up, man?
How's it going?
Thanks.
Hey.
What do you got?
Flyers for the bike race I put on here in town.
Nice. See, that's what I love about the mobile studio.
The Bear Jaw Groove.
Yeah, Bear Jaw. Yeah. So so the one question I had on Tyler Pierce's podcast was, I was curious how he gained so much weight so quickly without eating meat.
Yeah.
That was one thing that just didn't add up to me.
Yep.
Because he put on all this muscle mass and all this weight. And I'm like, the only way to really do that is to either start eating protein again or supplement.
Yeah.
Or do something else.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Yeah, especially with how much endurance he does.
Yeah.
You know?
I just did, look, like I've never met the guy, but like I would never corner myself into a whole brand based on like an ideology like being vegan. I just wouldn't do it. I've been vegan before. I've gone through all kinds of diets, right? But I just would never like box myself in and be like, my whole identity is going to be, there's a few people that are ultra runners that do this. They box themselves in with like high fat, low carb, like the low carb runner. And it's like, what happens if you change your mind? You've now built this entire identity on social media.
It's like getting a tattoo. It says vegan.
Except for your whole audience.
Yeah.
Maybe not all of them, but you're definitely, it's definitely an ideology. Being a vegan is like, it's very, very close to being a religion sometimes.
Yeah.
Like it's very like team vegan, you know? And so is like the low carb, like diet in general seems to be like.
Yeah, it's a soft subject.
Yeah. And like people get very passionate about it and they think that their thing is right. And everybody's like so individualized that people change. I've changed like 5 or 6 times in the last 10 years on what I eat. You know what I mean? And I'm like, that was stupid. Why did I do that? That was stupid. So I don't know. I just would never like, I almost like regretted that with the endurance part of this. Cause I was like, what if I don't want to box myself in with the word endurance?
Yeah.
You know, like I created this brand.
Yep.
And the seasoned bike packer, that's why I decided to go away from that. Cause I had cornered myself.
Yeah.
Just bike packing.
What about videography, podcast, business, family? You can go on all these different avenues, you know, but if you corner yourself, I totally understand. Yeah, I was vegan for 4 years, and then I went vegetarian. I was vegetarian up until like this year, and I started eating meat again. Yeah. And dude, I feel great. Yeah. You know, and so I do it because, you know, I'm now older and more mature, and like I'm gonna fuel my body what it needs. Like I just was craving it. So why would I withhold something that I crave, you know? But also I choose very high grade stuff that's because I also think that the animal agriculture is fucked up. Yeah. So I want to go grass fed. I want to go with like the local ranchers. Like
it gets so expensive though, dude.
Yeah, but I'll pay it. You know?
Yeah.
I'll fucking pay it, dude. Because like we need to stop the big farming. Mm-hmm. You know, the big. That's fucked up. I mean, it's
Yeah.
really bad for our earth. It's really bad for our health. They're putting all these antibiotics in there. So I understand that side of it. So like I said, it's so touchy. You know, it's like
Yeah.
people get into like just so much. But yeah, I agree. Like I think is even changing his brand from the vegan cyclist to VC Adventures.
Okay.
You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? So he's
he's
starting to
all right.
understand. But
He's
yeah,
ahead of that.
but everyone knows him as the vegan cyclist.
Right.
You know?
That's just like being in advertising and in marketing, like
Yeah.
pretty much since college. Like, and I work in a spot that reports to the marketing department.
Yeah.
So like I'm in it every day is like marketing. That's just a common mistake with
Yeah.
marketing is you box yourself in.
Totally.
You don't think about 20 years from now, 30 years from now,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
when it grows, you know? So it's not like he didn't do anything that other people haven't done, you know, wrong.
Yeah.
But now he's rebranding and, you know,
Yeah.
he learned that lesson. So that's
Yeah,
good, you know?
Totally.
That's part of that.
No, yeah, it was just he's a funny guy. He's just interesting to talk to. You know, it's like I think what comes along with clout. You know, it just is very much like people want me because they want me to introduce them to my 100,000 followers.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
You know, like,
Yeah.
and it makes sense. And I had a conversation with him too. I was like, hey, dude, like that's why I didn't post any videos of him on my reels or on my Instagram. I don't know. Maybe I did post just like an initial like photo of like, hey, this podcast came out.
Yeah.
But I didn't do any like in-depth reels on the Zoom or anything like that because, you know, he basically said, I don't want you to use me to
promote.
And I said, dude, all I want to do is have a conversation, you know?
That's wild.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
That's wild.
I know,
dude.
right? Like,
yeah,
because if it was a normal interaction,
people,
it would have been like, dude, fuck yeah, let's go. If he had 150 followers on Instagram, I'm sure it'd be in a different like interaction. He'd be like, dude, that'd be sweet.
well,
I'd love
okay.
that.
So if you look at this as a business exchange, he has all the leverage, or at least he thinks he has all the leverage,
Yeah.
right? And I try to look. I've had some things that have happened with guests where they're like more demanding than others.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have the pot out for very long. So, but I was basically like, nah, no,
Yeah.
I don't owe you anything.
Yeah.
I paid for all this
Yep.
with my money that I worked my 40-hour-a-week job for.
Yep.
I can do whatever I want.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I have to remember to keep that ethos if things scale.
Yeah.
Be true to that the whole time, right?
Totally.
And not, if someone wants to come on the pod, because right now I'm still in the phase where I'm asking people. There's no one who's like approached me
Yep.
to come on.
Yeah.
I'm thinking maybe one day someone will approach me. I have to be like, I don't ever want to be like that.
Yeah.
I don't ever want to be like that.
No.
And get kind of an ego, I guess, out of it. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So
And
that's
that-
why I bike pack though, because it just like takes my ego and it fucking crushes it, and it just smacks me right in the face with it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. You get so vulnerable,
dude.
you know?
Yeah,
like-
dude.
That's why we love this sport.
Yeah.
You know, it keeps us humble.
Oh yeah.
But it was just, you know, I think when, and I'm not speaking about anyone specific, you know, but I think
Yeah.
when you do talk to the iPhone to your followers that are somewhere else, you make videos and you're constantly interacting with that you start to lose what's true and what's around you, because you're always looking for the content. You're always looking for the next thing that you're going to make. You're always, it makes you money. And I get it. But sometimes when people do this, it's for the content, it's for the views, it's for the comments, it's for getting the extra follower.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, if it pays your bills and it
Yeah.
feeds your family,
yeah,
it's a fine line to
Totally.
walking, right? Because
Totally.
like you're now indebted to that process,
yeah,
which is a scary. I never ever want to be there
yeah,
ever.
yeah,
I want to be able to like walk away from this tomorrow financially.
yeah,
Be like, I'm gonna take 2 months off, because like the moment you become indebted, like you have to put food on your table for your family, you have to have the followers and you have to have the comments. You're now very close to like being compromised.
yeah. It's like a jail cell.
it people can navigate it, I think, but it's much easier to get sucked into it.
Yeah.
It's much harder to stay true to yourself when it's the sole thing that's generating money for you.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Because money corrupts. It
Yeah.
corrupts. Just
Yeah.
like back to what we started with the sponsor thing.
Yep.
It's like a very slippery slope.
Totally.
So
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And no, I have nothing bad to say about Tyler or anything like that. You know, it was a great podcast, and I'm so thankful he got on there and like gave me his time.
yeah.
Like that was huge, you know. We giggled, we had some fun conversations, and we just went on our way, you know. And
I actually liked him more after listening
yeah,
to him on your podcast than before.
Yeah.
Because I had seen a couple of his videos and I
Yep.
was kind of turned off by him, but he kind of seemed like more open to new ideas. Like he was kind of evolving as a person
yep,
in that podcast.
Mhm.
And I actually I came out of it like, hey, you know, he seems pretty nice guy.
yeah,
So like it was like, I really enjoyed it.
yeah. And what was
Yeah.
great, it was initially I asked him, I was like, hey, I'd like to have you on my podcast because I had major body dysmorphia,
Oh, okay.
like major, dude. The man version of anorexia.
Okay.
Growing up from 16, 17, 18 until I was about 20, 21, I had some major body issues. Never saw myself in the mirror as like I wanted to. I always thought I was fat, or you know, it was toxic.
Yeah.
So he made
So
this.
this was like all through your hockey.
Yeah, it was
days and
hockey. It was
stuff?
like kind of in high school, you know, when you got like
Yeah.
kind of picked on, and then I got in the gym, and then the gym was my it was toxic, because dude, I was really big and cut, like I had abs and
But it wasn't good enough. What
no,
you
it
saw
was never
like,
ever
yeah, right.
ever good enough. I mean, I could have been Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I'd still been like, oh fuck, dude, I'd pinch my always.
Yeah.
I'd pinch my belly and be like, oh, dude, you need to go into the gym and you need to do like 200 reps of 20-pound ball crunches.
Yeah.
Like dude, I mean, my workout routine was ridiculous. It was ridiculous. But he made this post. So he made this post of like how he saw himself as normal, and he was super skinny. So he made this body transformation post
Yeah.
and was like, I'm finally coming into I'm getting knocked into reality of like, I didn't look good. I didn't look, because as a cyclist, you need to be skinny to be fast. You need to be light. You need to look
Watts
this certain
per
way.
kilo, right?
Well, exactly. Watts
Yeah.
per, and we talked a lot about watts per kilo.
Yeah.
So I reached out to him, not about like the 24-hour race, not for clout, but because he has this big name, and if he can be vulnerable and be honest with like his body transformation, and like he gained muscle. He looks good. He looks healthy now, you know. He gained weight. And so I wanted him to go on the podcast and kind of talk about like kind of that battle, because we kind of all go through it. And then when I started cycling too, like I wanted to get to a certain weight, and I'm like, fucking stop. Doesn't matter how much you weigh. Doesn't matter what you look like, you know, like,
Yeah.
dude, just enjoy it. But it was cool to hear his perspective on like he's starting to incorporate like weight training and trying to look good for his wife and all these things that like are that encompass cycling, you know. So
Yeah, didn't he say that it really hit him when he went home and he couldn't even like lift his daughter up to play with her?
yeah,
That because he was so weak
yep,
from being like trying to hit this watts per kilo number.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it like
That was like the
encompassed his
moment.
life.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that story kind of like extends to just kind of we all face something along those lines of not loving ourselves in some way.
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
Like it could be anything. And
Yeah.
so that's initially why I kind of try to promote, like try to get someone on the podcast, because they have this amazing thing that they do. Like they're really good at like winning Unbound Gravel.
Yeah.
But then it was a complete different story.
Yeah.
You know, and so like with him, I wanted to really talk about his body image and like what he struggled with, and that so it can relate to someone, you know, and like
It totally did. It
Yeah.
totally related to me.
Mhm.
It was like really it was really cool.
Yeah.
That's a really cool way of authenticity with people too, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's what people like about these things is
Yeah.
authenticity and relatability. And
Yeah.
I like having people on who are the middle of the pack or
Yeah.
the last place finisher.
Yeah.
But you know what? They fucking finished.
Totally. And they usually have the better story.
Dude, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And I used to be that guy like 3 years ago.
Yep.
I was the last place bike pack finisher.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I finished.
Yeah.
Like that put me in a you know, the 60 percentile
Yeah.
because like the attrition on bike packing races is intense.
Yeah.
You know? And so I think that was more relatable for me and more interesting to me. And I'm finding that those people also are more relatable for a group of, there's a subset of people in the world that want to hear from those people too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because they identify more with those people.
100%.
And then you get you dig in and there's a lot of really intense and interesting stories of struggle and overcoming other things.
Yeah. And so like I want to ask what made you want to get into like these crazy adventures?
Yeah, I think like
'Cause you
multi-day stuff.
Yeah, cuz you said you like kind of struggle with alcohol.
Yeah. So like basically like alcoholism addiction is in my DNA. It's in my genetics. There's a long line of alcoholics in my family. You know, I'm Irish, so that also helps. And so I pretty much just started like going to high school parties and stuff when I was like 16.
Yeah.
And started like, you know, jungle juice and like drinking there. And you know what jungle juice is?
Oh,
Yeah. Okay.
I know what jungle juice is.
Okay. Some people, they call it different things in different parts of the country or whatever, but okay. Yeah. If you don't know, jungle juice is like a bunch of like usually vodka or a few different kinds of alcohol poured into like a big bin with like Kool-Aid or some other like fruity kind of flavor.
Yeah, and you don't even taste the alcohol.
Yeah, and everybody just like dips their cups out of it.
Yeah.
Usually. Yeah, okay. So I was like going to high school parties with that kind of scene, and that kind of was like, ooh, this is good. This stuff gives me confidence.
Yeah.
Like this makes me feel really good. And then I kind of went, you know, I was an athlete in high school. I played soccer growing up. I ran cross country, track. And then I started working when I was 16 and I went into food service and like serving tables and stuff. And there's a whole scene with serving tables. It's like you go out and party with each other afterwards, smoking cigarettes, drinking. It's just kind of you get kind of like locked into the scene. And so that kind of then I went to college and I always had like my life sorted out as far as my grades and my responsibilities as an adult. I wanted to be independent, but I also like was slowly developing this addiction to cigarettes and alcohol. Pretty much were my thing. Like I loved a whiskey and a few cigarettes and staying up late and like talking about the concept of religion and God with my friends or whatever, and having like these crazy like existential conversations and just getting like smashed at the same time, you know? Like I loved that stuff. Like small groups of people, small parties. And so it like looked like a normal college probably party scene. But like the thing is once I graduated, I never really it didn't go away. I just kept doing the same thing. And I just worked and would drink and work and drink and work, and it was like a cycle, you know? And all the while I had met my wife, Jessica, and she partied a little bit, but wasn't like nearly the kind of machine that I could be with partying, you know? And so let's see, a ways into that, I don't know. I did that probably until I was like 30. So from the time I was like 16 to 30 was pretty much like, it became everyday drinking, you know?
Yep.
Everyday drinking. But I also like stayed physically kind of like I would do a few hike and ride bikes occasionally and do stuff like that. I wasn't like completely off the rails with that. And then one day, my dad, I was on vacation with my dad and my mom, and my dad and I got really wasted, and he asked me to be his sober buddy. He was like, I want to quit drinking. Will you be my sober buddy? And I was like, my thought process at that time was, well, if I say no, that means I'm an alcoholic. If I say I can't be your sober buddy, then that means I don't have the self-control enough to quit drinking. And I'm an alcoholic. So yeah, I'll be your sober buddy. Right? That was my like weird twisted denial thought process, I guess, right? And I don't know if my dad was actually doing it for me at the time or doing it for him in hindsight. I'm not sure what his goals were there. So we took the bottle of Jameson and we poured it out and we broke the glass, threw it away, and we're like, we're done drinking, you know. And he's had a history of like alcoholism and going in and out of quitting drinking and then relapsing and going back to it. And so that was it. We were both done. And then a few weeks later, I found out that he had relapsed again. And I got really angry at him for it. Like he broke that we were supposed to be doing this thing together.
Yeah.
And I was like fucking mad at him. You know, I was like, why did you do that? Like, we were supposed to do this together. And it pushed me to a point where I was like, well, fuck him. I'm going to show him that I can stay sober. He can't stay sober, but I'm going to show him that I can. And that was it. That was the motivation for me for the next like few years to like get through that part of my life, kind of reframing who I was, you know, relearning. It was like a year of like foggy brain weirdness.
Yeah.
But then I realized like my job was bullshit. A year later, like a year after I was sober, I realized my job was like bullshit, that I was being taken advantage of. And I was like, I'm out of here. I'm looking for another job. And I went and got a different, way better job. Like I started to turn things around for myself, you know?
Yeah.
And my dad continued to drink, and he kind of got to a point where it became somewhat of a medical emergency. Like he was really, really, his body was starting to kind of reject him. And I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years later, he finally decided that it was his turn to like permanently stop drinking.
Mm-hmm.
And so he did. One day he just was like, I'm done. I'm turning this thing around. And that's been, I don't know, 5 or 6 years now, maybe. And he's still sober now.
Good.
And he's like, I gave him my Thai hardtail bike. He's like riding bikes now.
Sweet.
Yeah. And he's like really like, we went through the same sort of process, but just at different times.
Yeah.
And I went through some therapy and stuff afterwards, and the therapist was like, he shouldn't have asked you to be a sober buddy. Like basically he was asking you to be a sponsor, you know, like his Alcoholics Anonymous sponsor. And like, you don't ask your family members to do that. It's like too convoluted with family members.
Yeah.
So, but whatever. I mean, it is what it is, right? At this point, like I was so angry at him that it forced me into sticking to it.
Yeah.
And then eventually that desire to do alcohol kind of faded away. So biking kind of entered, 1 to 2 years after I had quit drinking, I was like, all my friends were gone because I used to go drink with all my friends at the bars and stuff. So the common story is like when you quit drinking, you really see who your friends are at that point, right?
Yeah.
And they all kind of dissolved, I guess. And it was just like me and my wife. And she also didn't drink at this time. Like she not because she had a problem, she just like wasn't interested in it. She just doesn't.
That's like my fiance.
She just didn't like it.
Yeah.
Never did. So it was kind of easy around the house, but I kind of like turned inward and got really, really socially isolated after that, like to an unhealthy point. Mm-hmm. But I think it's just the process that I had to go through. And then I saw the Ride the Divide documentary in like 2018 or something.
Yeah.
About these people doing the Tour Divide. And I was like, I kind of, in my head, I was like, one day, like that's a goal. One day I think I want to try and do that, you know? And it was in this weird spot where I was searching for purpose a little bit, relearning. In hindsight, I was having to relearn who I was because I went through my entire developmental years. Like frontal cortex on men doesn't fully develop until you're like 25 or 26.
Yeah.
Like you don't fully become like a thinking non-testosterone, testosterone out, like human until you're like 25 to 30
Yeah.
as a male. And I spent that whole time like pickling my brain, basically, like not allowing my brain to form opinions and self-identity and all this kind of stuff, because I was just kind of in this fog the whole time.
Yeah.
So when I quit drinking, I realized, well, I didn't realize until hindsight, but that I was having to like relearn all that stuff. Like, what are my opinions on, I don't know, political issues, or I don't know, just who am I as a person? What do I want to do in this world? What do I want to give back to? Right? Like I was like fucking learning all that when I was like 34.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so biking kind of slotted in there. Well, so I got addicted to food right after I quit drinking.
Yeah.
And sweets, because that sweet thing with alcohol, I replaced it with like chocolate. And dude, I was like over 200 pounds. I gained all this weight, and I'm like a pretty short dude. So 200 pounds, I was a pretty chubby dude, you know? And I was just eating and eating and eating. And then I got this new job at NAU, which is a good job, but I got like really addicted to work. And I just started fucking working all the time. I was working like 7 days a week. So I was just like eating and working. And I was just like, ooh, like I'm just an addict. Like I realized at one point, like I'm just an addict. Like no matter what is it going to be? What am I going to choose in the roulette wheel of addiction? You know what I mean? Is it going to be alcohol, porn, food, or chocolate?
Yeah.
Or the fifth choice, was that 5? The fifth choice was getting my heart rate up. It was dopamine.
Yeah.
The addiction to dopamine. Right?
Yep. And
that slowly like worked its way in, dude. I saw that Tour Divide documentary. I did 1 or 2 bikepacking trips with like a bob trailer.
Yeah.
Like totally piece of shit setup.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But my dad went out with me on those, and like he had he brought like a covered trailer for like a support vehicle. And I didn't know what I was doing, and then that slowly like evolved. Then I got into Arizona Endurance Series, and I started to like build, and I was super self-conscious at that time about myself and my ability to bike and the people around in that community. Like, I don't know, I just wasn't comfortable yet with myself, but I started to slowly build like a community around that. Like, hey, there are these like-minded people around me who maybe also have had struggle.
Yeah.
And then I got in, I did the Coconino 250 bikepacking race, which is part of the Arizona Endurance Series. And that was my very first bikepacking race. And I met a few people that were also ex-addicts and drug addicts. And I was like, oh, this is like a thing. Like, these people are replacing their addiction with this.
Yeah.
This is just a healthier addiction. Arguably, sometimes it may not be healthy in general, but it's healthier than what I was doing before.
Yeah.
Right? At least it's keeping me physically fit, right?
Yes.
And then that just kind of, that was kind of like a runaway train for me, you know?
Yeah.
Then I started losing weight. Then I started to focus like obsessively on diet, which maybe not good.
Yep.
Almost body dysmorphia level.
And addiction. Because you get addicted to that process.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So I went like vegan, and then I went like keto when keto was super
I've done
popular.
keto.
Yeah.
We got a lot in common, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I got really obsessed with lowering my weight to try and get to a point where it made it easier to bike pack multi-day. So almost that like watts per kilo kind of obsession.
Yeah.
And that was just like last year. It's like for me, it's like everything can easily go off the rails.
Yes.
There's no moderation with me.
Yep.
So it's like, what do I pick to go off the rails with?
Yeah.
And is it the healthiest thing that I can pick? Because it's going to be something.
Yeah.
For example, this podcast, I'm not going 20% into this podcast.
You're all in.
I'm going 150% into this podcast.
We got to pause this for a second, because I showed up. We're at Schultz, the Y right now. That's why you can probably hear cars driving by. I show up. There's literally a tent studio that's amazing with truck and pour over coffee.
Yeah,
Right now,
love
where
the
you're
pour over.
seeing is a studio, but what I'm seeing is forest, people about to go rip on their bikes. This is the perfect place for a podcast. So yes, you go all in.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
And my original plan was like, oh, I'll do 1 pod a month. And I'm like, you're like number 17, and I've only been doing this for 3 months because I just opportunities keep presenting themselves.
Yeah.
And I'm doing like 2 a weekend now.
Yeah.
Because like the people are here. It's like logistically, it makes more sense to like bank a few because like there's people around. And so I'm like banked out like a month and a half.
Yeah.
Because I'm going on vacation next month. So
Yes,
taking
you're
a
gonna
break.
be good.
Yeah. But like, so anyway, that was kind of it, man. I mean, so now I'm at a point where like I am still an addict. Now, I never like went to like a formal AA or anything. I had a bit of, spiritual is a co-opted word. I don't like the word very much, but it was the closest thing I can describe to it. Was there was a different Dylan that came out afterwards.
Yeah.
Multiple experiences.
Yep.
One in this parking lot, actually.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And definitely softened up myself a little bit with that. Like I got more sympathetic and empathetic to people. Like I used to be an atheist before, and now I'm just not sure.
Yeah. That's so true.
Now I don't believe in God, but I'm not 100% sure that that's all that's out there.
Because man, I saw something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've had connections with nature. It's like I'm kind of along the lines now of maybe God is something wrapped into like nature somehow, because I've had some stuff that's happened that is hard to explain with science. And I'm hardcore like a science backed kind of dude, but like this question that, and it's difficult for me to, and it was more like I was out wandering around with my friend in the woods, and we were pretty far away from each other, far enough to not be able to communicate with each other. And we were walking, we were at this disc golf tournament, and we were just like walking out, and we both stopped and felt like this blackness in front of us, like darkness, like so I stopped. I felt like this energy that was like, don't go this way, like there's darkness over here. And so I walked over to him and I was like, what's up, dude, what's going on? And he's like, do you feel something over there? He was like completely independently.
Yeah.
Like we weren't even next to each other when this happened. And he's like, did you feel some like weird shit over there? I'm like, yeah. Like we're not going over there. It's not happening. And we both turned around and walked the other way. But it's like the little things like that.
Yeah.
Like what was that?
Yeah.
What was it that made us both like, and I don't know what it was. I never found out, but weren't going over there.
No.
Like that's how strong that feeling was. Right.
Yeah.
And then just also the manipulation of time. I'm like fascinated with that.
Totally.
Like with cannabis also.
Yeah.
And with like psychedelics, like the ability to manipulate time and perspective.
Yeah. It's crazy.
It's very attractive to me because it's lifting the veil, you know?
Yep.
Like I feel like such an asshole when I ever do any of that stuff. I feel like I'm a spectator of myself and how much of a douchebag I am. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm like, man, and I get like shame about like stuff I did when I was 13 years old.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's interesting. Like even when you look at a tree,
Yeah.
you're like, whoa, there's a whole universe in that tree. Like, like it's so alive. Like, I mean, the bark's moving. You can start seeing like this interconnection between everything. That's the special thing that I've noticed too. It's like, that's a sense of the oneness of God that, quote God. I don't know. It's just a word to describe this source of energy that's like connecting everything. But when you're on psilocybin, I mean, I feel energies if I'm with someone. I could feel energies from other people. I can like feel like I am a part of this earth, like not separate. Like I'm not walking on it. I'm like walking in it.
Yeah.
Like I'm it as well. Like
Totally.
I'm no different. Like when I look at my hand, it's the same as when I'm looking at the dirt, but just different. Like it's this life. Have you seen your hand when you're tripping?
Oh yeah.
It sucks. It's like, whoa, I don't like that.
Yeah.
But you know, it's like, it opens your mind to like, I'm so small.
Yep.
But yeah, I'm so big because you feel like this. You feel like you're a part of it all, you know? And so when you're off of it, you start thinking, yeah, so differently. And like all the things that you've done but in the past, you're like, how could I have done that? Like, what the fuck? Like, you were so narrow-minded.
Yeah.
You know? Like,
oh yeah.
now it's like, that's why they call it like open your mind.
Mhm.
Like you truly feel like anything's possible. Everyone has feelings, even the assholes. You
Yep.
know, like they're a dick for a reason. You know,
Yeah.
like maybe you need to treat them nicely. You just like think different. You know, and but I
Yeah.
get the same experience after about 5 hours on the bike.
Yep. I don't do anything anymore.
Yeah.
Exogenously.
Yeah,
I don't take anything because I can't replicate what I get on the bike and endurance stuff.
Yeah.
It's giving me chills right now.
yeah.
Because
I
I'm
see 'em.
like,
I see the
yeah,
goosebumps.
dude. I'm like, there's something special about that you can't. It's so powerful. The serotonin or dopamine or the mixture or whatever it is that's happening inside. That blows everything else out of the water. It blows any drug, any alcohol out of the water
Yeah.
in a very like intoxicating way.
Yep.
That's like totally type 2 or type 3 fun. But then the weeks following, you're in this like afterglow.
Yeah.
And the longer you do it, the more that process happens. You know?
Yeah. And I'm the same with you though. It's like it becomes so addicting that I'm almost scared to go into that ultra world
Yeah, you'll be fine.
because of
You'll
how I
love
am.
it.
I know. But that's why I'm scared. It's like a addict who quit heroin
Yeah.
and someone's like, "You'll love it." I know I will. But I think I get into a hole where I'm all or nothing, you know, and in this sport. And so if I start pushing the envelope,
Yeah.
I don't think, because in that realm, there's really no ending to how far you can go. So it's first going to be a 200. then
Just
it's
when
gonna
your
be a
body
4.
fails you.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
But then it's like, my body fails me, I'm going to do it again, but I think I can go further. Like, that's what I'm saying. It's like, yeah, your
Yeah.
body will fail you. But then 3 weeks later, all I'm going to think about is that failure. So then I'm going to go do it again, but I'm going to try to push that envelope even
Oh, yeah.
further.
No, I
Like-
mean like you have like long-term medical problems. That's the only downside from like,
Oh, yeah.
you know what I mean? Like you're unable to continue because
Oh.
you've beat your body up so long.
100%.
Over that's like, so hopefully by then the medical joint replacement industry will be so good that you'll
I
be
can start
fine.
feeling my fingertips.
Yeah.
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 Because like,
Yeah.
but that's why I've been like getting into like running
Yeah.
too, is because of if I'm overdoing it in cycling, you know, like I do start feeling different joint issues, you know,
Yeah.
but then I run and then I start getting shin splints. So then I go ride. So I'm like kind of switching it up.
Yeah.
And
That's healthy.
yeah, I think it's very healthy.
That's why I started running.
Exactly.
Plus, dude, the cross training is
Yeah.
so good for biking,
Dude.
especially hike a bike, which I know you don't do any of that yet, but
I try not to.
you're at 170
Yeah, I
or
try.
180 BPM.
Yeah. But
Is that what's your normal beats per minute for? You said 170 for an endurance, like a
Yeah.
100 miler.
yeah, like it averages out to like 165
Okay.
after like 3.5 hours. But every time I look fucking down, it's at 172. So I don't know how it's fucking 165. I must like when you hit in the descents, like when you're not looking at your heart rate, I'm sure it drops to like 150,
Yeah,
which then brings the average down. But every single time my legs are moving, I look down, it's 170.
That's funny, dude, because my functional threshold power is 172. So I start to not be able to flush lactic acid at 172 beats per minute.
Oh,
That's because I've spent a lot of time on the trainer,
yep.
like really dialing in that number.
Yeah.
Like where do I basically have failure? Like where can I not flush the lactic acid as fast as I'm generating it?
Yep.
And that's 172 beats per minute.
Interesting.
Yeah, right in that zone, which is kind of high for my age, I think.
Yeah, which
But-
is probably good. I mean, that means you're probably pretty fit if it's at 172, and that's your threshold.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm 27, so
Yeah.
172 is I can hold that for 4 hours, you know.
That's pretty gnarly.
Yeah.
I can hold that for maybe an hour.
Yeah. Like when I do a 100-mile race, my average is like 168. That's
Dude.
not good. I mean, that's high.
Yeah.
Like I feel it too. I mean, I feel it, you know, but like my FTP probably, well, when I had a power meter was like 378. So I could hold 378 watts for 20 minutes. Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah.
378?
378.
Dude. That's gnarly.
Yeah.
I think mine was like, or is like 280 or something. Yeah.
280.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Dude.
I'm also 170 pounds, you know?
Yeah.
So like my watts per kilo probably aren't as high, but I can push 380 watts for a good amount of time. I'd say probably right now, since I don't have a power meter, if I were to just guess, I'd say I'm probably in like the 340, 350 right now. I tested it probably at my peak was 378.
That is so insane.
It's yeah, it's pretty high. Yeah.
That is so insane.
But that's I'm all power. When we're rolling, like I'm a mountain biker, so
Yeah.
I can hit 1200 watts over and over again, you know. But when we're gonna hold, like when I go on the group rides and
Yeah.
I want to hold 270, I get killed because like just 270 is easy normally.
Yeah.
But when you're doing it for 2 hours, I'm like, fuck.
Yeah.
But I can do 700, 200, 800, 100, 300, 200. Because that's mountain biking, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I'm going to really enjoy watching you once you organize your life optimally
Yeah.
and you've created some more time for yourself. I'm really going to love to watch you put up some times on some of these longer,
Yeah.
even multi-day things.
I know.
I've seen you register for Pinions a few times
Yeah.
and then drop. And I'm like, oh, is this going to be the year that he's going to start
Yeah. Yeah.
Pinions? And I know it's a time commitment. I just would love to see this approach translate over into 3 days.
Yeah. Because I'm not going to start. See, that's what I'm super excited about is like these big days is I have that power output to bank
Yeah.
when it's 20 hours in, you know, like if I can just hold 230 watts for 20 hours, you know, like I think I could do that
Yeah.
because that's an easy, you know, it's not hard for me because I train, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
that's the way I train. So I think if I could hold even 110 beats per minute, 120 beats per minute,
Yeah.
my body will be in a whole different level after 10 hours of riding. I'll be still okay. I've done from here to Cottonwood. The first bike packing thing I tried to do with a buddy, we did 128 miles from here to Cottonwood, like up kind of Pinion and Pines loop
Yeah.
to Cottonwood. My buddy had a bit major stomach issues, so he had to like kind of drop out, but I could have kept going. I mean, I knew like
Yeah.
that's where I'll excel. Because in the pro field, yeah, maybe 25th at whiskey is stellar for me, you know, because I'm racing Keegan Swenson
Yeah.
and all those guys.
Yeah.
But with bike packing, I mean, 128 miles in and I'm still like punching climbs. I'm like, okay, I could probably do 250. I mean, I hurt obviously, but I was going at such a reserved biking
Yeah.
capability that
Right.
I was like, I could do this for a while. And, you know, and I like fighting demons. So I think it's like a win-win scenario,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, yeah. And there's also sleep and resupply and the logistical, right?
Which I love.
Yeah.
I love when I go ride big days. I love stopping at that gas station and doing like an in and out. Boom, boom. Okay, I'm
Yeah.
going to eat a snack. I'm going to drink a Coca-Cola when I get back on my bike. You know,
Yeah.
like I
Calorie
love that.
planning.
Yeah.
There's all the like, how many calories do I need to get to the next
Mm-hmm.
resupply, optimizing. That's all. Like I got really obsessed with that
Yeah.
at the beginning. That's where I thought I could excel. Like I said earlier, was the logistical part of it
Yeah.
could make me better and then the writing could maybe catch up as I get better over time.
Yep.
Right. Because that stuff takes time. But the planning, dude, I had that. I had spreadsheets and like I have that shit
That's
dialed in.
badass.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Which some people say like sometimes that's a crutch too. You know, like over planning.
Yeah.
There's a sweet spot to all this stuff, right? Because I'll go down all these rabbit holes and obsess over these things. But yeah. Hey, can we take a quick break? I gotta pee.
Pee?
Yeah.
Same.
Okay.
Let's take a quick break.
Okay. We'll be back. I have anxiety that I always do that. Like I'll have a moment in the middle of one of these where I'm like, fuck, did I hit the record button? Do you ever have that?
Yeah, I'm a fucking hour in. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, continue. But I was just thinking about, fuck, I didn't hit record, but I did. Well, I've had some that have like completely lost.
Really?
Oh yeah, dude. Hours of fucking content.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Walk me through that feeling.
Oh, dude, it's the worst thing in the world. Like I've had to reschedule. Like I'll get done with, who was it? And this person was like pretty well known. I had a full on interview. It's about an hour. I don't think I don't hit it. I didn't hit an hour yet, but I was like 40 minutes into the conversation. Gold. Like it was so good. Gone. And I was like, dude, I didn't hit record. He's like, you didn't? I was like, man, like, do you think we can like reschedule this? Because we need to continue where we left off and like start it. Might have been like Kyle Trudeau, who's in the Lifetime Grand Prix. You know?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah.
No way. Like, you know? But it's just like how you live and learn, you know?
Yeah.
That's why I keep things so simple. And I have always wanted the podcast to be something that's like easy. And then it's like never becomes too much because I know like it can get to that point. So that's why I'm like, Zoom super easy, hour to hour and a half conversation, hit the nail right on the head, call it. Super easy editing. Like I started using like Opta, which you should look into. It's sick. It's an AI video editor.
Oh yeah.
It costs about like $32 a year.
Yeah.
You take you upload this whole conversation you can do it on your iPhone.
Yeah.
It downloads it all. So it takes a little bit, downloads the whole video. Then it transcripts the whole video, goes through everything. And it takes key points in the conversation and makes a little short Instagram reel.
Okay.
It'll save you hours and hours. I thought it was bull.
Yeah.
Like seriously, and I have it on my phone,
What's it
so I
called?
can send it. I don't know on the top of my head, but I'll
Okay.
send it to you after.
Okay.
Dude, I uploaded like Taylor Ladine's conversation that I had with him after 24 hours of O Pueblo.
Yeah.
Just for the shits and gigs. Like uploaded it. Like you could do like like if you put this on YouTube, then you just like copy and paste a YouTube link into it and it'll like transcribe it and then come up with it could give you like 10 different Instagram reels with 10 different conversations. And it'll even put the captions in there too. Like any caption that you want. Spot on. Every single one of those videos were going to be like, it could be viral. It takes, it just knows what you're talking about. I have no
That's
idea.
interesting.
And I thought it was bullshit.
Yeah.
And cause I did the free trial just to see, and it saved me hours. Cause you know how it is, dude. Okay.
Yeah.
I remember that conversation. Where was I left? It was right around here. And then you kind of go through 3 hours of conversation to find that one thing that you talked about that was going to catch someone's eye.
Sure.
Nope.
Yeah.
That's it for you.
It's interesting. I had on my list here to talk about your process on some of this stuff. Because I sometimes when I am identifying what I want to be a reel, it's like you're trying to guess what you think will be popular or what other people will find interesting.
Yeah.
Right?
You take artificial intelligence that has millions of content that it knows
input. Yeah.
and it inputs and knows what's viral
from
a podcast. Cause you put in like the category endurance, and you put in key terms. I put in mental health, mindset. I put in like things that I knew the conversation like kind of was based around.
Okay.
Because Taylor kind of had some issues with mental health and things like that. And we really talked about those things. And as soon as I put it in there, transcribed it, boom. Yeah. So when I was like really dealing with my mental health. And then it would go into like exactly what I wanted it to filter through. So you can put kind of a specific theme to what your reel wants to be.
Sure.
Because like you can have a conversation for 3 hours, but you're like, that conversation really was based around this.
Yeah.
And and using technology like that has really helped me, because I'm using really low quality Zoom videos, and so like that's why I did buy a camera, because I do see I'm investing into the Stoke Podcast.
Yeah.
Because I know what it's going to be, and hopefully if real estate kind of takes off, I'll invest into my other business. Yeah. Because I think of it as a business. I want ultimately for this to be a full-time job. Wouldn't that be amazing?
Yeah. I don't know. That's a interesting argument. I would like it to be full-time, but this isn't going to give me a pension like my current job.
Yeah.
I'm 10 years into my current job.
Yeah.
For the state. You know what I mean?
True.
Like, and it kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier. I'm conflicted. I do want this to be, I am trying to figure out how to do less time editing and less time creating reels and more time having conversations, because that's the part that I enjoy the most.
Yeah.
And for me, like, my first pass at that is, okay, how do I get more sponsors so that I can hire somebody to go through it and just do all the post?
Yeah.
Right? Like, because my process is I shoot the thing, I dump it back into the computer. I use Premiere Pro. I'm like very comfortable in video editing software. I've did it for 12 years. Like, I was an editor. That was all I did. And I sat in a dark room and just edited for 12 years. So like I just slot right into it. But so I go back, I compile it all together. I put my intro on, I do any of the cuts and the transitions, and then I watch the whole thing back from start to finish. And I mark things that I think are going to be interesting for people, or that could become reels, basically.
Yeah.
So I go back through and I say, oh, that part of that conversation was interesting. So I mark it. And then once it's all done and I watch through the whole thing, then I go back and I just like cut out those sections and cut them into 30-second or 1 minute.
Yeah.
Well, on YouTube, it's 1 minute for shorts. So I just cut one.
Yeah.
I think Instagram's 90 seconds for the max.
Mm-hmm.
So I just cut 1 minute for everything. And then just, my wife handles the Instagram account.
Oh, nice.
Because I'm not a big fan of social media.
But it's important.
But it's necessary.
Yeah.
And it also, I use it to communicate with people too.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good way to connect people. But I'm not a big fan of social media as far as like the predatory nature of it. And again, like, it's an easy thing for me to get addicted to. Like, it preys on people like me.
Yep.
Because it hits that
dopamine
thing. Yeah. So I have to be careful, because it'll get me. It gets me, dude. So I have her manage it, and I'll check it occasionally and stuff, but like, I like can't have it on my phone. I only check it on a computer. I make it intentionally not accessible.
Yeah.
That's my
Smart.
problem.
Smart.
But I think a lot more people are addicted to it than they know, there's billions of dollars being put into making you addicted to it. So like,
yeah,
with way smarter people engineering it for advertising. But so I'll send her all the reels, and then she'll put them up. We have like a schedule now. So I'll release the YouTube stuff, and she'll release the Instagram stuff. But yeah, I mean, I'm constantly looking like, how do I make this more optimized and efficient, this process, right?
Yeah.
Because the one thing you can't make efficient and optimized is the conversation part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's the meat of the whole thing.
Yeah.
You don't want to make it like that.
Yeah.
Then it wouldn't be as authentic and real as what people, I think, enjoy.
Yep.
But what I do want to do is figure out how to like cut out longer sections of conversations that are longer than a minute. Because I think that there are certain topics that deserve to have like a 12-minute clip of that one specific topic.
Yep.
To be produced into its own like sub video.
Like YouTube video.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I think that's super smart, because first, someone's going to listen to this conversation when they're, driving to California or something like that, and this is going to entertain them and keep them interested. But when it comes to like, how to start your own podcast, our video might pop up for 12 minutes. And because you have someone who really kind of does the bare minimum for
Right.
his podcast, right? And someone who does an amazing job with their podcast, like the studio and all of that stuff.
Like technically, from the technical point of view,
Technical
right?
point of view.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, we have amazing conversations.
Yeah.
But it's like everything outside of the podcast, there's so many different ways you can do it, because really the way I'd looked at it is like, I need a computer, which I have, and I need a little bit of editing skills, you know, because I in high school, we took a bunch of like editing program
You're graphic
classes.
graphic designer too,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, and I do graphic design.
Yeah.
And so like that helps with making my own logos, making my
Right.
own brand, doing things with like the
Thumbnails.
thumbnails.
Yeah.
So like that's how I kind of do it. You know what I'm saying? And so it's interesting. Someone can listen and see, okay, I can do a really amazing video editing and stuff like that, and like amazing reels, or I can just like pay $16 a month for Zoom and just have Zoom conversations with people. And the reason I like the Zoom is it can connect me to anyone around the world right in an instant. You know, I can literally contact anyone. And dude, I've been so lucky. Like plain and simple, from the day I started the podcast, I've been so lucky. Just getting into contact with, first it was Dana, you know, like the Verde Valley Randonnée was like the first one that kind of took off. And I was really surprised with how many people listened to that podcast with not even having a podcast. And then I just kind of got in this loophole of, he like recommended a few, and then I just reached out and they said, absolutely. And then I had a few people reach out to me. I said, yeah, absolutely. Come over and we'll do a podcast. I've only had one person to reach out, you know, and that was really cool.
Yeah.
Hearing their story. And then I just reached out to Unbound XL. So Logan Casper, he used to be my old teammate on Flow Formulas.
Okay.
So that's how I kind of had that connection. And dude, I had Unbound XL winner. No one did anything for him. Dude, he won Unbound XL.
Yeah.
He wasn't in a magazine. He had no one ask him to be on a podcast. He had no one take his fucking picture.
What?
I'm like, this guy just did 350 miles and fucking won. And he's never done this before. And no one wanted to hear his story.
That's weird.
That's where I excelled, is I wanted to hear these stories from people that weren't getting the light on them, you know, like people who deserved their stories to be heard. I just reached out, like, and dude, like the vegan cyclist, Taylor Ladine, like these big names that like I reached out and they responded.
Yeah. It's
Like,
pretty,
you know,
it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's pretty surprising how many people are like, sure,
yeah.
I'll go on. You know, like,
Oh,
I thought I'd get a little resistance from people.
Yeah.
Or like, I get some nerves from people, you know? But, like, I think this studio, especially when you put all four walls on, it creates like a space, a common space where people can feel comfortable, you know? Because like I worked in a production environment with like studio lights and cameras and people all standing around staring at you while you're talking.
Yeah.
I worked in a TV station for 2 years.
Damn.
In production. Yeah. Live news TV station. So we fucking did like the live 6 o'clock and 10 o'clock news. It was a disaster. Every newscast was a disaster. It was called Channel 2. Shout out Channel 2. If anybody knows about it. It was the only Flagstaff local TV station. It's not around anymore. I was there for the last like year and a half of its existence. And we were an affiliate of KPNX, which is Channel 12 in Phoenix, a Gannett-owned station. Gannett's like a giant media conglomerate. And we would always get their old equipment, like all the old broken equipment we would get from KPNX. So everything was constantly breaking in the middle of our live newscasts.
Yeah.
And like there was like a troubleshooter guy that worked there. And he just would sit around. I never saw him do anything ever. He would just like sit around with his feet up on his desk and be eating the whole time until something broke in the middle of a live newscast. And that guy was like a fucking superhero. He would like show up out of nowhere with like duct tape and like toothpicks or whatever and like fix something in the middle of a live newscast, like a tape deck or whatever. Like a magician, dude. Like this guy was like we were like, okay, that's how you earn your paycheck, right? Because you're like the on the ball troubleshooter guy. But anyway, it was like we would celebrate if we just had what we called a clean show, which was a show with no mistakes in it.
Yeah.
Where something like catastrophically bad wouldn't happen. And I think people watched it because something ridiculous would happen every time.
Yeah. They're just waiting, like, okay, what
Absolutely, dude. It was like a train wreck waiting to happen every newscast.
Yeah.
Right. And I was like 21 years old or something at that time. And they put me in charge of like directing and running the TD board. So the TD board is a technical director. So it's that giant board with all the buttons on it.
Yes.
The switcher.
Yeah.
And because they were like losing money because they never sold any advertising, because it's like Flagstaff, they were like merging positions all the time because they were just like hemorrhaging money as a news station. And so I was the director and the technical director. So I was doing like two people's jobs. So I was like on a microphone in the people's ears, like the anchor, the news anchors. I was in their ears, and I was also running the switcher board at the same time. So it was like a lot of stuff to manage when you're like hungover and you're 21 years old.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you don't really give a shit because you're making like $9 an hour or something. Like I graduated with this degree, and I was like making $9 an hour doing this shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it was just such an insult. So like I kind of didn't care. Also, part of me. And dude, I mean, we had some catastrophic stuff happen, like both in production and with the news anchors, because we would always get news people right out of college too, and they didn't really know how to handle situations either, because they were like using it as a stepping stone. So, I mean, I had situations where people you'd take back to them, and they'd just be like deer in the headlights, like frozen. Yeah, you're in their ear, you're cueing their, because you like something might cue. There were some words you would say, and then you would cue up in their ear so you could talk to them. You'd be like, cue, start talking, go. And they were just frozen. And then you'd be like, fuck, what do we do? Your choices are either like go to commercial, go to black, or go to this guy named Lee Bourne, who's the weather guy. Do you know Lee Bourne?
No.
Okay, he was like a local legend at the time. He was a snowboarder, and he was a really cool guy.
Today the weather's the forecast for some powder.
That's exactly. And so, but so many people owe Lee a debt because he saved so many anchors' asses. No matter where he was in that building, you could like hit him in his ear on his mic and he would start talking about the weather. So like in that situation where that chick just froze up, we were like, Lee, are you ready? And he'd be like, yeah. And he was like walking to the bathroom or whatever. So we'd go onto the weather screen and cue him up. And he's like walking down the hallway and he just starts talking about the weather over the next, the 5-day forecast or whatever.
Dude, that is so funny.
Yeah. I mean, he saved so many people's asses. One time I had a meltdown one time live on the air where I took to the wrong camera, and then I don't know what happened. I like short circuited or something. I don't know exactly what happened in my brain, but I just, instead of taking to black or commercial, I just started pressing every button on the switcher board, like going down the line. I don't know what happened, dude.
Were you just like, oh shit?
Yeah, I was just pressing buttons until I like found the one that was right. But it was like going every camera around, like it would.
So
go
someone's watching, it's like go.
It was like color bars, camera 1, camera 3, outdoor shots, weather shots. Yeah, dude, it was like such a disaster.
And like I'm sure like the anchor who was just sitting there, like, and you go to like camera 3, he's like picking his nose.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, I mean, one time there was this thing called critical focus that you would do, where you would have to zoom all the way in. So when you're pulling I don't know how much you know about photography, but when you need to focus, you zoom all the way in and you focus and then you pull back, and that means everything within that depth of field is in focus.
Yeah,
right, and that's called a critical focus. That's kind of an old school. Nowadays, like you can just like tap on the screen and it'll focus. It's much easier, but I took to somebody one time and they were zoomed in on the person's nose. And I was like, zoom out. Like, Dude, such crazy stuff. And we would always get yelled at by the anchors.
Yeah.
The anchors always blamed, like the news anchors, because they were always the ones that looked bad.
Yeah.
They would always yell at the production people, like every night. It was just like coming home, like to your dysfunctional parents' household or whatever, and getting yelled at.
Ooh.
You would just do the newscast, and you just knew that you were,
Gonna get yelled at.
It's 11 o'clock at night. All you want to do is go home and start drinking. And like you just got to get through getting yelled at by the anchors again.
Yep.
And move on. Dude, I would never do it again, ever, ever, ever.
That sounds intense. So this is easy.
Yeah. Not live.
Yeah.
Live was just so stressful.
I think we could kick butt live, bro. If we were like
do a live stream
right now, we'd kill it.
I bet you're right.
Yeah, we would kill it. We have the vibe's going good now.
I mean, that was like news though, it was just like so formal.
And today,
Yeah.
brought to you by KT1, Sharon from the local council office disturbed the local police. You're like,
Yeah.
cricket.
Totally. Dude.
I can't watch the news. Plus, like we can get into that whole thing, but you got like one side, you got the other side, and they're saying other shit about the other side. Like politics.
Yeah.
It's all like, well, we're the left side, well, we're the right side news, and then you get like, well, what's right? Like, what is the real truth?
Yeah.
Going on.
That's when I really got my first exposure to like how, and this was, let's see, this was 2007,
Mm-hmm.
I think, was when I was working at this news station. And it was when I got my first exposure into like how biased some of this stuff is.
Yeah.
How like paid for and bought on the back end some of it is.
Yeah.
Because I would be involved in the process of them picking stories and editing stories and stuff. Like I would have to write. They would submit all their stories, and we would have to like build the newscast
Mm-hmm.
at like 3:00 in the afternoon. We would build the newscast with all the packages in it, and you'd get like last minute change outs of packages and stuff like that. And then you'd run that at 6:00, but you'd have to like build the schedule basically at 3:00. And yeah, I just was like, ugh.
Yeah.
Like I just got my degree in advertising and electronic media is what it was called at that time. And I was just like, ugh, this is gross.
Yeah.
And then it just got worse and worse and worse over time. And then we find out about how like influenced news companies are and how biased a lot of it is,
Mm-hmm.
depending on who they are funded by, what advertisers they're funded by. Prescription drug companies, for example, like it's just all like, I don't really trust anything anymore.
The new drug that's gonna make you happy.
Yeah.
Claritin D. It's like, oh my God, no.
Yeah. So basically I try not to form opinions for like 3 to 5 years on something. That's like my rule with myself.
I like that.
Is just wait, because new information is going to start coming out.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to learn something more. Like look at what happened with COVID. New information came out. It's still coming out.
Yeah.
Right. So like, don't jump in and just be like, this is my opinion.
This is it. This is the truth.
Yeah. This is the truth. Because it's almost never that way.
No.
It's almost always the opposite.
Even 5 years later, don't even, because then shit changes too.
You can form a better opinion.
Yeah.
More information's available, but maybe not all of it.
Yeah.
Like look how long it took for some of the information about like Afghanistan to come out. But just all that, the 9/11 stuff, and it took like 20 years to get like full information, and to go back to before 9/11 when like the US was funding Osama bin Laden on certain stuff to fight the Russians. It was like, I didn't fucking know about that.
Yeah.
It took me 20 years to know about that, but I had my opinion formed in 2004.
Yeah.
But I guess that's like wisdom though, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
the only wisdom, the takeaway for me was just don't like be one of those people who just like jumps out and forms an opinion on everything.
Well, yeah, we thought the earth was flat. And you know what's kind of crazy?
Yeah, right.
Is still people think the earth is
Right.
flat.
It's come full circle on that.
Hey, no pun intended.
Yeah.
But seriously, like people like when we were talking about being vegan, people create an identity around being a flat earther.
Right.
Now my Instagram, dude, it's so funny. It's like I see like flat earth Instagram feeds
Yeah.
on my, because for some reason I think I really like conspiracies.
Yeah,
So like
they're fun.
now my Instagram knows that I like conspiracies and that my mind's so open, and I obviously think the earth is round, but it's hilarious
Mhm.
what information the flat earthers put onto the feeds. It's like, well, if you're on an island and you look out straight, you zoom in, you can see Mount Everest. No, you can't. No, you can't. Like,
Yeah.
where are you located?
Yeah.
Like they were like basically saying anywhere in the world you could zoom in on a really high def camera and see Mount Everest. And
Pretty
they
good
made a
science.
video like that, and I was like, that first off isn't real,
Yeah.
and that's not science.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Here's the thing about science. Like, science is on the constant pursuit of always having an opportunity to be challenged.
Science is always trying to
Right.
prove itself wrong.
Right. That's why it's, I think, a good method of finding truth, because it accepts change.
Yeah.
It challenges itself all the time.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I find attractive about the idea of science.
Yeah.
I was always very obsessed with the idea of blind faith in religion. Like, I took some religious classes in college because I was like so obsessed with what is this thing that people have that they just accept and embrace this idea of blind faith, whether it's in God or in like a spiritual or a world leader or something, for example.
Totally.
People have blind faith, and or now like politics almost is like blind faith to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Where people don't want to accept, like, when something challenges their viewpoint for their political viewpoint, they like just ignore it like it
Yep.
doesn't exist or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, it's not very scientific to do that. You should, like, it's okay to have it's okay to change your mind as a person. You know, you don't have to be all in all the time. But anyway, the blind faith thing was very interesting to me, like the psychology behind it. What is it about people that they're just like 100%, I know that that's the truth, that I know that God is my savior, and I 100% am all in on that, no matter what, lack of evidence, whatever. That thing is fascinating to me, whatever that is in people. Right?
Yeah.
If it's like genetic or biological or like, I don't know, safety thing, like when, you know, back in the day when we were hunter-gatherers, did it serve some purpose back then before God was there?
Mhm.
You know, before we had the concept of God?
Yeah.
Did it serve a different purpose, you know, in believing in something higher than that? But anyway, so I got like super obsessed with that. But I also really appreciate science and the pursuit of truth through science, I guess.
Totally.
Right.
Yeah. And I think we're even getting to the point now where science is even trying to figure out that word God.
Yeah.
Like I think that's like what science is trying to prove. Because
Sure.
we are coming down to like the atomic level, and like string theory, you know, which is basically kind of the essence of God. Like string theory is basically everything's interconnected, and how one action can alter another action somewhere completely different. Like your shroom experience, when you were talking about how you both were in a different spot and you didn't want to go any further because of this blackness. So technically speaking, I'm not a scientist. I have a degree in science, but the psychological science.
Yeah.
But
right.
but so he basically is like that's string theory, is how that your experience was very similar, even though that you weren't in the same spot. And like they're trying to even test telepathy, or like not telepathy, but have you ever had a coincidence where you think of like your dad and he calls you? You're like, what the fuck?
Right.
Dad, I literally just thought about you. How like thought itself can create a vibration in the like smaller like quantum level to interact with, because space and time, they're also, that has a big thing to do with string theory.
Right.
How we're in completely different locations, but yet space and time is fucked up, especially when you trip. But basically how you can almost interact with the source, which is like the strings of everything. It's like we're in a web of like, if you think goodness, you will get goodness, like manifestation.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in like I'm going to set a goal. I believe in this goal. I put it on my wall. I tell my friends, I tell my wife, and it happens most of the time.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it's like this energetic force that you are putting out into the universe. And like,
Yeah.
and I get it. It's like drive and, you know, dedication, a routine. There's a lot of things that go into, you know, you can't just say, I want $1 million and then just hope that you're going to get it.
Right.
No, there's got to be a game plan, but.
Well, you're building a structure around your goals.
Yes.
Like manifestation is an interesting thing because I think there's a book called The Secret.
Yep.
That is about
very familiar with it.
Yeah, which I don't know. I have this weird balance between like woo woo and that being challenged with psychedelics. Right? Because everything you say sounds so like woo woo, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
Totally.
Because of my experiences where the veil was lifted and there was a vibration and a feeling that was tangible and palatable.
Mm-hmm.
And whether or not, like Joe Rogan says this all the time, whether or not that's actually real, it was real to me at that time.
Yeah.
That was really happening to me. My perception of it was real. And like, we're just walking around and our perception is whatever our perception is that day that we're making it. You know what I mean? And so like that what's real to me is we're sitting here with this, doing this podcast right now. Right. On my experiences, like stuff is trippy. But I think that the manifestation thing, like you proclaiming it helps you to build a process for success to achieve that thing.
Yes.
You know? And then there's a lot of stuff that's just like coincidence. Like really it's just coincidence. And us as humans have a tendency to want to connect things spiritually, I think.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay, let's go way back, hunter-gatherer or whatever, early farmers. We did this one thing. We sacrificed this goat or whatever, or person, and it rained and it grew crop and our whole tribe survived. That's like still programmed into us.
So next year we're
doing
going to
the same
sacrifice someone and it's going to rain.
Yeah.
And we're going to get crop. But science says that there's monsoon season in August, but you sacrifice someone in July 1st. You know, like I totally see that.
So some of it's like just I feel like some of it's just our human programming to connect things that benefit us for survival.
Yeah. Totally.
And genetic memory a little bit too, right?
Yep.
But you layer on lifting the veil and you literally looking at a tree, like you said before. I had a conversation with an aspen tree, like a full-on conversation with an aspen tree. I can never look at aspen trees the same now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it was alive. And it wasn't like a, hey, Dylan, how are you today kind of conversation.
Yeah. I know exactly the conversation you had.
It was on a different level.
Yeah.
It was on a non-verbal vibrational level.
Yeah.
Right. I could feel what it was feeling, and just it like the leaves just shimmering in the sun it was communicating with me.
Yeah.
Right.
You could feel it.
Dude. And now when I see an aspen die, I had an aspen die in my backyard and I was like, it like really hurt me.
Yeah.
You know, it was wild, dude. So there's that too. Right. So I don't know, dude.
Totally.
It's all, I don't know. I try to find strike a balance between science and this total woo woo.
Cause I went woo woo. Dude, when I say like I go woo woo, like I was walking barefoot around teaching yoga. Like,
okay.
I was like,
you were full on
in it. Oh, dude. So I definitely know what you're talking about with balance, because I had to really strike the who's Quinn. Is Quinn this person who is this walking essence of spiritual knowledge?
So before that, were you like a bro hockey player?
Oh,
dude?
yeah, dude.
Okay,
Jock,
so you were like the solar opposite.
frat boy.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Solar.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Or
what's the word?
Solar?
Solar.
Like the panels. Solar opposite.
It's
Dude,
like the
I was,
fifth word we've made up today.
and I love it. Yeah, well, I wung it. Was the first one.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like I was so egotistical because I was bullied.
Okay.
I built that up. I wasn't treated well as a kid by my peers. So I did it because of my environment. I had to put this wall up to prove something to someone else, which was really myself. And it wasn't fulfilling. So after the shroom trip, my walls completely vanished. And that child came back out who was hurt and vulnerable and loving and compassionate. And that's all it was I had to relearn how to become me, you know, like, cause I went full on, like I was reading The Secret, any spiritual book. I was reading books on Buddhism, Taoism, Christianity. I just wanted to know what the fuck everyone else was, cause I wasn't brought up that way.
Yeah.
So I wanted to really see what it was that I was feeling, because I couldn't explain. It wasn't a life circumstance. Like, this was an experience that I was feeling that I didn't know what it was, because I was happier, I was more loving, and I was present, and I wasn't stressed. I was like, what is this? Like, something hit me. So I was really learning everything else, and I really kind of gathered all of this information and came up with my own perspective of it all after taking shrooms more. And, you know, I've taken other drugs, and, you know,
You done DMT?
never done DMT. Yeah. No, but I've done mushrooms with acid. I've done Molly and acid together. I've done it. I've done it all. And so, what I've really came to decide to be true for me is, when I talk about string theory, it's weird. It's because I don't know much about it. I just know that the essence is that everything is connected in an energetic level.
Yeah, there's this spooky action at a distance.
Exactly. So when you're talking about you having this conversation with a tree, I understand, because it is a vibrational level. You can feel and bounce, like it's you receive and you give. And so everything in my life, when I'm talking about like manifestation, that's the only word I know how to describe it as. Like, we have this like word to describe something. That's the best way I can describe it, is like manifesting.
Yeah.
But it's like, I've manifested ever since I've met Kenzie, everything that I've dreamt of in my life. And like, there was no plan. Like, it was all like these weird coincidences that led me to where I'm at. Like, for me to get the trailer to race my bike, like I got the trailer because I was a general manager of a restaurant and I hated my job. So I wanted more time, but I also wanted to travel. So the trailer got thrown onto my lap by someone who was just like, hey, I know a guy who wants to sell a mobile coffee trailer.
Okay.
And I was like, whoa, weird. Okay. Talked to them, got the trailer. Then I was like, whoa, this is crazy, because now it's not financially stable. I wanted the racing and the availability.
Mm-hmm.
The daughter was on the way. I was like, I need something that's going to provide financially for my family. I never thought it was going to be real estate. Real estate was a coincidence of someone who bought my single speed coffee trailer, who bought it from me, was a real estate agent, and said, I know someone who needs someone now. And I'm selling my trailer. I'm going to be jobless. But yet I'm selling it to this person who's literally giving me a contact for another career path.
Yeah.
I called her. I had work within another week.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, it's like, I knew it was different. I knew in my mind that I wanted something different, but I didn't know what it was. But now it's so weird how, like, whatever you trying to conceive in your brain is like, I want this. I don't know what it is. And you just follow the path of just existing, meeting people, talking to people. Yeah. And it just happens. And I can't explain it, dude, because I know how to become a fit mountain biker. You ride and you dedicate that to, you know, there's a formula, but with like certain things, like the weird stuff that's happened in my life, I'm like, there was no formula, dude. It was just like, whoa, like fucking slap in the face of like, oh shit, this is a huge chapter in my life. I'm about to take a huge fork in the road. Do I call this woman who needs to teach me to be a real estate agent? Or do I try to find my own path? I'm going to try it, because why not? I'm going to call her and see what it is, see what's about.
Yeah.
Too good to be true. I'm like, whoa, are you kidding me? Like, it's an amazing opportunity. She has 250 properties she manages around Flagstaff, long-term rentals. She has a small team of family members who run it, and she just needs help, man. And so she wanted me, and I, came in and I start doing real estate while I'm doing getting my license. I mean, it was I couldn't ask for anything better, you know? And so now I'm providing for my family. My wife gets to stay home with our daughter and run and do what she loves to do. And we're just like so much happier, you know? And it's just, it's hard to explain.
Yeah.
You know?
It's awesome. I mean, it sounds like you got a combination of like, yes, getting lucky, things falling into place at the right time, but also taking advantage of opportunities and jumping in kind of fearlessly into things, you know? And you know what? If like you do something and it fails, it's okay. Just keep doing things. You're going to throw up? I'm kidding. Whoa. Keep doing things until, like, there is a kind of a bit of a theory that, you know, throw shit at the wall until it sticks sort of thing. Like I've been doing that a little bit. Like, just keep trying different things, like, especially with content.
Yeah.
You know, like,
you've definitely done a bunch of different things.
I've done like 5 different types of content.
Yeah.
And some of them just fail miserably. And I'm like, okay, just do something different.
Along the way, you're also discovering your identity through the process of like, I really like this specific thing. I'm going to try it. I like that, but it's quite not what I want to do. Right. Boom, switch gears. I'm going to try it, tweak it. And then maybe you were like, maybe I need to, maybe I need to open my branch. I don't know.
Yeah. For the podcast, it was really like, I needed to optimize my life. Well, I started to optimize my life and build my life around, I'm tired of working. It's now time to have fun in my life, to start to do, I'm still going to work, but I'm going to spend more time. I'm going to arrange my life to do the things I want to do more. Mm-hmm. How do I ride bikes more and talk to people more?
Yeah.
Right. And as a byproduct, I'm going to create this podcast studio. That's the byproduct of it. Right. Because like now this allows me to go places, set up at races, recruit people to come on the podcast, do the race, and then I have content at the end of it.
Yeah.
So it's optimizing the amount of time that I have, right? And my previous model wasn't doing that at all. It didn't have enough value for the amount of time I was putting into it. It was taking away from other things, right?
Yeah.
So I did that very diligently. That's not the right word. I specifically went into it doing that.
Yeah.
You know, I made decisions that opened things up and closed other things off to get me to this spot, you know? So very deliberately, that was the word I was looking for.
Deliberate.
Yeah. I was very deliberate with how I wanted to arrange this. And it's interesting because I don't really want to change anything. I've done now 17 episodes. And usually I have a tendency to want to change stuff. Like, oh, I want a different backdrop, or I want to do this with that, or the mics, or change the mic arms, or whatever, you know, or the chairs. It's good. I'm good with all of it. I'm just like, and so for me, that's like, oh, I'm doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Like I want to change stuff. It's in my blood to do that. And I just don't want to. So I know it's the right thing. So now it's just like, just keep doing it.
Yeah.
Be consistent. Right. And I think that's the hardest part with podcasts is like staying motivated to continue to produce over time. You know,
I take the approach of this is a marathon for me in Stoke. Mm-hmm. So I went into it like I was doing 2 podcasts every week to once every week to once every 2 weeks to really try to figure out how I can manage my time to now being like, I'm just going to sit now, focus on what's important, because I know the podcast will always be a part of me.
Yeah.
I'm waiting when I'm 40, 45, 50. I want the Stoke podcast to still be around and to evolve. But I know I chose that brand.
Yeah.
Because that word so powerful for me. Because when I'm at the top of a mountain, when I'm backcountry skiing, I look down a line. I'm like, dude, I'm so stoked, you know, and like, or I'm stoked to go on a endurance ride. You're like, it just is such a powerful word, and it allows so many avenues for the conversation. You know,
you definitely haven't boxed yourself in with it.
No, yeah.
Stoke can mean just about anything for anybody.
Yeah, like stoking the fire, whatever.
Yeah,
like,
like
so
stories of. I mean, you had a variety of stories on there, but it could go to all kinds of things. And you kind of you definitely have this like attitude that fits it.
Yeah.
Like your persona fits it.
Yeah.
So it definitely clicks in with you. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Really
yeah.
well.
And like, I see dreams of like making a sick bike jersey because I really like colors.
Yeah.
So like I've seen, yeah.
Yeah.
So like I just like.
Don't want to be on mushrooms around that shirt.
No, dude. I'll be the point of focus, you know? So like I've like want to create a bike jersey and an identity of, I don't like talking into I don't like, yo guys, what's up? You know, I like being there, but I want to get more comfortable with that because you know, like I've heard it from multiple people. Like, I want to see you sign up for Pinions and Pines. Like, multiple people have like, dude, I saw your name on the list. And, like, I'm looking forward to see. And because when you're I don't think like anyone cares. Anyone gives a shit. But I've heard it from a lot of people. Like, dude, when are you going to do that?
Yeah.
Like, you said you were going to do it and you haven't done it yet.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're right.
So much hype.
So much hype.
I was
dude.
watching when the registration names were coming in because we were just sitting there watching them. And Dana.
And last year I was in Monterey, California.
Yeah.
Dana's like, you got accepted into Pinions and Pines. Like, that's next week. And I'm like in California and I just raced Sea Otter. And I'm like, fuck, dude, I don't know if my wife would like that if I were like, get back to, you know, and so I'll get there. But, you know, it's interesting. I just want to, I try to create a brand that like really fit me and like the conversations. And like, I could see me creating a really dope bike jersey that's like kind of a purple, pinkish, like light violet, you know, like I think that's sick.
Yeah.
And like I created my logo to fit my personality. I've changed my logo a few times, but like I don't know if you've seen my like YouTube cover video or photo yet. I designed it a few months ago, but
is it the one with like the brown thing?
Brown guy?
You're talking to some brown guy?
Dude, I thought it's hilarious.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm like, this is perfect. Like it's me with like a little mic that I like photoshopped in there.
Yeah.
Talking to like a character, you know, like it could be anything.
Yeah.
It's like kind of a psychedelic look.
Yeah.
You know, because like Joe Rogan, I mean, he's so successful in what he does because he really has every walk of life on there.
Yeah.
You know, and just catches anyone's attention. If you're a UFC fighter, if you're, you know, a nutritionist, if you're an endurance athlete or a bodybuilder or a CrossFitter, I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, he'll catch your attention because he's open to everything. So I don't know. I just felt like I saw a bumper sticker leaving my house weirdly on my best friend who I took the mushrooms with on his van. He bought the van with this bumper sticker on it and it said Stoke Dealer. Because at the time I was really trying to figure out what my name was going to be.
Yeah.
I'm like, I even thought of like something like endurance spot, or like, I was like, no, it's not fitting. I was like, QT, sitting with QT. I'm like, no, that doesn't work. Dude, I'm pulling out of my driveway and I'm like, dude, where'd you get that bumper sticker? He's like, I don't know, man. I just bought it with it. I was like, Stoke Dealer, Stoke. The Stoke Podcast. The Stoke Podcast. That's fucking it. Yeah. That's it. You know? And then it just stuck. I was like, that's perfect. I want to be a Stoke dealer. Yeah. Anywhere, like if someone's in a pissy mood or like if we're on a long ride and someone's bitching, I'm going to be the Stoke dealer. Like, dude, we're out here having fun, you know? Like I never want to be that guy who's like,
that'll be good.
Doing this?
That'll be good for bike packing when it happens. Yeah, if you made a Stoke dealer shirt, I would definitely buy one.
Right? A Stoke dealer shirt.
Yeah.
But see, those are all the things that I have dreams of. It's like, how do I get, like, I don't have the resources to like get a website or a little online store or anything. I've tried to figure out how I can like go through like China.
Yeah.
But I just don't have those resources yet and the time to like dedicate it to it. You know,
Talk to other people. I mean, that's the biggest way I learned is just talk to people who are doing it.
Yeah.
Find somebody who's already doing it and just ask them. Usually they'll share with you, you know?
Yeah.
Like, so I also am in printing. That's what I do at the university.
Oh, nice.
I work full time in printing. So when I got out of video editing and production, I went into printing for like until now. So 15 years now. And then I got back into video production. So like the tent, I had all the resources for a custom printed event tent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I sell them for a living also. So like that was convenient, right? For me. It kind of was like vertical integration on a few different things that I've already done.
Yeah.
Right. And, but yeah, I've thought about the online store thing and I've thought like, and there's ways they've made it easier now. You can have like print on demand now.
Yep.
So like Shopify, I think will connect with like
Etsy,
Printify or Etsy or whatever, or Printful, I think. And so you can actually you like submit logos or designs and then they have a catalog of products that they can print on and then they'll just print and drop ship directly. So it's so much easier than it used to be 10 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, so you just got to kind of do it and make mistakes and then just course correct, you know, like do something, maybe it doesn't work, course correct, do it right. And then bam, a year later, you're in business.
Yep.
You know more than you knew before and you're in business, you know?
Yep.
So, what's your process like for when you do get a guest on? Do you do research? Do you write bullet points? What do you do preparing for a podcast?
So I was really nervous when I first started. I'd get, you know, a printout sheet and everything and like, you know, do a bunch of research on races and figure out what I was going to talk about. And man, when I go meet a buddy at the fucking brewery, I never come up with bullet points and all that stuff. And, you know, I was wasting a lot of time like coming up with a really good plan for a podcast. And like I had this huge thing laid out in my mind. And then I would sit down with him and not even look at it.
Yeah, it's kind of what I'm doing today.
Yeah, exactly. And I hit most of the bullet points because the conversation, my subconscious mind already knows like this is kind of what I want to know about them.
Yeah.
And so it just kind of flows. And if I don't know anything about them, I think it's better for me.
Yeah.
And for my listeners because I'm digging free-form conversation as if I already knew a lot about them. Like Rich Roll, he is a podcaster. He's amazing. He does a bunch of research on his guests.
Yeah. He's a runner, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he really comes in with like a bunch of questions that really get into like their life.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's great. But I also like the Stoke podcast to just be, I mean, I just want to talk about whatever the vibe, whatever emotion we're in at the time. I'd like just flowing with it, you know, because I am more interested in coming into like this podcast because I know about you and I know what you've done and I've watched your videos like of the seasoned bikepacker and all that stuff, but I don't know much about you, you know, and so I think it's fun to like just have those conversations. So that's kind of like my approach. I started with really writing a bunch of bullet points and I had a notepad too. So if they'd say something, I'd write it down and stuff like that. Never came back to it. But we always ended up coming back to it. So I, over time was like, cause I'm at like 24 episodes right now. So over time, I've just been like, my best podcasts are the ones that have been just off the cuff.
Yeah.
Because we go into like shit I never even knew they even experienced, you know? It's so that's kind of the process. And like, it's the recruiting of just texting them. Or if I know them, I text them. If I don't, I just reach out on Instagram. And man, like some people who have like a bunch of followers and say yes and like want to get on the Stoke podcast, and I love it. And sometimes I get really nervous with a few people, so it's like not my natural person. You know, you kind of get in like interview mode, which I hate. You know, so I like having that. Like I want people to understand my personality and like who I am as a person, but
it depends on the person too. That's what I found. You almost have to be a chameleon. And I'm kind of naturally good at that. Like you can be, because people are dynamic. They're different. Some people, like I could just throw you a line about string theory and you could just go off for 30 minutes about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? But some people you really have to kind of usher the conversation along,
Yep.
you know, and they're really some of my most interesting guests are very reserved and quiet, and I've had to like draw stuff out of them, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just a different style, right?
Totally.
And so interviewing people, you could call this an interview. I like to call it just like a conversation.
I like to call it a conversation.
Yeah. But really it's like, technically it's kind of an interview, you know?
Yeah.
Or when I recruit people, I say, hey, do you want to come on and have a conversation on the podcast? But really it's like me asking a bunch of questions, you know?
Yep.
And I think people are like, I think you're pretty good at that. Like you're pretty good at that with your approach to it, because you're able to be dynamic in the conversation.
Yep.
And listen, be an active listener. That was something I had to work on, was like get better at active listening so that I could ask more poignant questions.
Yep.
Things that maybe like caught my attention. My biggest problem is I forget stuff that I wanted to come back to like an hour ago, especially on a 3-hour podcast.
So I'm excited you said that. So how I got good at that was I would ask my mom. It's like, hey mom, can you listen to this podcast I did? And can you let me know how I did? And if you're going to get any honest answer, it'll be from your mother.
Yeah.
Because your mom knows you better than anyone.
Okay.
Or your dad, or you know, like the closest person in your life. You
Yeah.
ask them, hey, can you listen to this and let me know if you like it?
Yeah.
And my mom was fucking brutally honest.
What'd
She said,
say?
she's like, you're a fucking robot. And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, you were a robot. Like, you never got into any information on them. You never talked about yourself. You never showed who the host was. You just were like, yeah. And so how was that experience for you? Oh, wow. Can you elaborate on that?
Right.
So I really took that to heart.
Right.
So I started listening to my podcast and I was like, fuck, I'm so boring.
Right. Right.
But we're like the biggest critics,
right. Yeah.
especially when you're creating stuff.
Dude, listening back to it the first couple times was brutal.
You get the ick.
Ugh.
Oh, I
That's-
get the ick sometimes.
Yeah,
But
like-
I'll probably listen to this. I'm like, ugh.
I say like way too many times.
Yeah. And the ums and the likes. And I totally, now it's in my head. Now I'm going to really get on that.
Yeah. When I'm cutting the shorts and the reels, I just like because I caption it and I'm like, how many times is the word like going to be in a caption?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
And then when you're listening to a podcast too, like on a drive, you're like, all you hear is like,
yeah.
like, yeah.
And I do try to listen to other pods that are successful and listen to what they're doing and how they're speaking and get better at it, you know?
Yeah.
But I don't think it's as big of a deal. We are definitely our own critics, but that's a good tip about the mom. So
Yeah. Ask your mom.
Let me know.
Try listening and let me know how I do.
And ignore all the talk about the mushrooms.
Yeah. Then she was like, oh, wow, I didn't really know that you did that. You know, it's like, oh, yeah.
Yeah,
But
she knew.
like, and I like to be honest too, you know, like there's this ultra runner. I forget his name, but dude, this guy's raw. I mean, he wants his haters to like know.
Really?
Like he doesn't give a shit. He has no filter. He's like, fuck the haters, you know?
Yeah.
And like, I'm very much like, I'm a people pleaser and I want people to never be like, man, Quinn's a dick, you know?
Mhm.
But also I want to be a little more raw in my content because I feel like I am reserved. Like if you and I, you know, were to sit down and drink beers and we start chugging beers, you'd be like, whoa, I didn't know like that Quinn comes out, you know?
Yeah.
Cause like, dude, this shirt's like my personality, you
Yeah.
know? And I want to show people that. And so I'm still learning. And like you said, it is based on who we're talking to.
Yeah.
Very much flows the conversation. Sometimes I'm more reserved, more question oriented. Sometimes I'm like shooting the shit,
Yeah.
you know? So
Yeah.
it just depends.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just, over time just kind of learned, but that one with my mom was huge of
Yeah.
like asking her to listen and give me feedback. Cause she really made me think about like how I approach things. So then I stopped writing things down. Cause she even said like, you got to stop writing stuff down. Like I can tell that you're not even listening and you're thinking about what you're going to ask them next. Why don't you just ask them a question, listen to it and go off the conversation from there. So it was like really hit me hard, you know. I was like, okay, that's a really good point, Mom. Thanks. Yeah, she's like, because you're fun and you're funny, and you know,
Yeah.
I want to hear that. Like,
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. The other thing that I have been trying to do is be okay with silence when I ask a question, and not try to fill in all the noise.
Yeah.
And like not say, yeah,
See,
every 5 seconds.
and I'm trying to, yeah, but it's hard because normally when we're having a conversation at the bar, you're like, yeah, or bar, whatever, coffee shop, wherever you're at, yeah.
Yeah.
We keep it engaged,
Mhm.
but you hear it when you're listening to a podcast. You're like, shut up, dude. Quit saying, yeah, because I do that too, But
Yeah,
you're
well, I
giving
think you want to
space.
show that you're engaged in the other person's conversation, right? That's part of like, if I was just like a zoned out and you're talking, you're going to see that I'm not receiving.
Yeah.
And I start to spin out when I'm talking to somebody and they like go on their phone or whatever, they're not engaged. Like I'm like, oh, I'm not going to talk to you now.
Cause then, yeah, it really, you want the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like we're having a conversation. I want you to be present. And,
Yeah.
and I can also tell, like I've had guests on there that like don't give a flying fuck
About how they
the podcast
come off.
Yeah, no, just they don't. I could tell they do not want to be on the podcast.
Oh, really?
But I like honesty. I don't want you to feel like you're obligated, and I don't want to say the name. There was one podcast in particular that I had that I was just, really trying to just get a story and like really. This person has a lot of followers, has an amazing community that they've created. They've created events for bike packing, and they've done these amazing things. It's nowhere in Flagstaff, but
You don't have to say.
no. And
That's not the important part.
it was like trying to squeeze a dry sponge.
Yeah.
And it was so hard for me because they first came on and they were like, hey, I'm like, just to let you know, I'm a little sniffly. Is that okay? And I was like, yeah, that's totally fine. It's like, do you want to reschedule or anything like that? And I was like, well, no. I mean, if this time works for you, it works for me. It's been on the schedule. They're like, okay. I was like, okay. Well, just let me know when you want to roll. Okay. So, all right, sweet. Well, let's get going. Hey, welcome to the Stoke Podcast. This is Quinn. Today I have on the podcast, and how are you doing? Good. I was just like, it was digging and digging and digging, and and there was just, I even reached out to them after, because I always do like a reach out after. Thank you so much for your time. Like, I really appreciate you taking the time, giving me the energy, giving my listeners the energy to like just explore a conversation. Nothing. They read it and didn't even like not even like, no problem. It's that easy.
Yeah.
But like certain things like that, it's like, well, I'm all right with not,
Have you recorded something and then not released it? Like, did you just decided mutually or something?
I released it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That one?
That one.
Yeah. But I mean, is there another one that you've recorded and you've just been like, this isn't gonna work?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
No.
You went ahead and
I'm like what you get is what you get.
Yeah, it's not you.
No. And it's not.
You're consistent, It's just, and that's how people are. People are different.
Yeah, and I want if we schedule the time and we took the time, I want to give it to my listeners, and like and no matter how it goes, I want even the raw stuff. I mean, sometimes I don't even cut anything out. So like the pee breaks and stuff, like you're going to hear it. You're going to hear me tinkle in the bathroom.
Yeah.
Like
you and the weather guy.
Yeah. So like we there's just been a few, where it's like podcasts, they're tricky. They're amazing, but they're also not an obligation. And so for anyone who's listening, if you ever get reached out by someone who wants to have a conversation and you don't want to, don't. Yeah. Because it's like showing a house. Like if someone schedules a time for me to go show a house and they don't show up, just tell me you don't want to see it.
Yeah.
Because I got in my car and I went there for you.
Yeah.
There's so many avenues to it. It's like, if you don't want to have a conversation, or if you don't want to talk about this certain thing, I always kind of give a briefing too. Like, if there's certain things you don't want me to talk about, please let me know now.
Right.
Or else let's go for it.
Right.
Let's like throw everything on the table. Mental health, like freaking body image. Like, let's get into it, because people who are sitting in their house or sitting in their car listening to this probably needs to hear the vulnerability someone like you can offer them.
100%. That's so important.
But yeah, basically it's like, if you don't want to do it, don't.
Go there.
And just, or let me know, or like, and then I feel so bad, it's like, man, because then I'm such a people pleaser, and I do get in my head, like, I don't want anyone to be like, fuck that guy. Because like after that podcast, I was like, fuck, like, was I pushy? Did I like, did they want to be on it? Did I ask the wrong questions? I get into the spiraling downward spiral, and like, did my, like, do I release this?
Right.
I just want, I want to be respected, and respectable. I don't want to be like, oh, fuck. He asked me to be on the podcast, I have to do this,
Totally. Yeah. It's good advice, man. Yeah. I don't know. I haven't come across that yet. It's my inner circle that inner and fringe circle that I've interviewed.
That's perfect.
Just to get started, kind of.
Yep.
There's been a few people that I just met, like Andy Wenzel.
Mm-hmm.
I did the Maricopa Trail race.
Yep.
And I raced that with him, and then we did a podcast the day after, and I had just met him that day before. So that one worked out well. That was like my second one or something. But I started with my wife as the first one, because she finished Cocodona, and she was prepping to do it again this year.
Nice.
Which is incredible. And so it's
amazing.
There's a huge audience that will benefit from Cocodona information, right? There's people that just suck that up. But I was like, this is like, we're going to try this out and see how it goes. But, as the circle expands out, it'll be interesting to see what kind of situations I come across.
Yeah. And it's different circumstance with me and Zoom.
Yeah.
Right. Because when I first got started, I was trying to interview people that really stood out, because I'm not familiar with bike packing. All I wanted to really get information on was bike packing. So I got Dana, I got a bunch of bike packers. I really
Marone, right? The CTR.
Yeah.
Marone Golfman.
Yeah.
That one's on my list. I haven't listened to it yet, but I'm like, that's one of my research pods for
dude, he was great.
Into CTR. Didn't he like live off of Coca-Cola for like 5 days or something?
Yeah, dude, he like bonked out. He like he had a freaking spiritual experience. Like on
CTR?
Yeah.
Dude.
Oh yeah.
All right, I can't wait to listen to it.
It's a good one. And Myron did like he just did like the Alaskan the Alaskan one.
I don't know.
The bobsled. Freaking, it's like in the
fat
middle of
bike
winter.
one?
Yeah.
Oh,
1,000 miles.
I did a rod. Something.
I did a rod trail.
Is it Marone or Myron?
I don't know.
Okay.
It's I think Myron.
Okay.
I think I called him Myron. I don't know. Should have asked him how he
I did Arizona Trail Race 300 this last fall.
Yeah.
And he did it. He was doing the 800.
Yeah.
Dude, he blew up the first couple days.
I know.
But then he rallied like an animal.
That guy rallies, dude.
Dude.
Yeah. But it's cool to see
he's jacked too. He's a big guy.
Yeah, it's cool to see like what he's done with it. Like he, like you can really make a career off of it. He like kind of went full force, but I saw him because he won the Colorado Trail Race.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I reached out, man. Like, so I'm interested in all of the things that I was unfamiliar with, because I'm in the endurance realm. I could ride my bike fast for 100 miles, but like I wanted to pick everyone's brain. Like ask the master before you become a student. Yeah. Like almost like, do I want to do this? You know? And yes, I do.
That's that's an interesting perspective.
Yeah.
Like I particularly want to be familiar with, like I almost don't like interviewing people that I haven't done the course. If it's like about a course, I feel like I need to I can engage better with them if I know exactly what they're talking about, because I can really put myself in their shoes. Yeah. Yours is like much more inquisitive. Like, I think I'm going to dabble in this, so I want to like suck up all this information about it.
Yeah.
And mine's more like reliving old war stories or something.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And like, it's like another great perspective to a conversation, reliving it.
Right.
And then also for like my perspective, it's like, what was it like?
Right.
So you get two different, like if you had Myron on the podcast, you'd have this whole different story
Right.
from you, because you guys can really connect on a bunch of things. As me, as a endurance mountain bike marathon rider,
Yeah.
we're different,
It's a whole, yeah,
you know?
equally respectable, whole
Yeah.
different thing.
Totally.
Like it's a whole different thing. And I couldn't even, I don't feel like I would be able to connect on those kind of races. A little bit maybe on the 100-mile stuff.
Yeah.
You know, we're getting into some crossover territory
Yeah,
there where
yeah.
I kind of can visualize what's happening. But
Yeah.
yeah, man. So how you doing? What's up, buddy?
How long are you gonna be here?
Time anyway.
That's why, like, spiritual talk sometimes, that's too much. He's encompassed in, he was talking about like the Fibonacci sequence, how everything's in line, how he's talking about the string theory. Dude, you know, he like that. He's trying to prove something. Like, dude, it's all about love. That's too much.
He obviously has chemical imbalances in his head, right? But that was some intense shit, dude.
Did you hear that, guys?
I don't know if they could hear it or not.
No, I wanted to be like,
So
check this.
I might turn it up.
I wanted to say this. Yo, check this out. 3.1 for 1592 6535 8979 3238 4626 3879.
He might have
Look it up.
self-destructed.
Look it up. It's fucking pi, because I hated math. So there was a pi sequence
It's fucking pie.
on the wall, and all I did in my math class was going 3.14, and I memorized the whole wall.
Oh, no way.
And so now it's like stuck. It's like a party trick. I can
Yeah.
only do it about like 4 beers below, and then 4 beers above, I forget after like 3.1415.
yeah, the beer bell curve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's how I'm with ping pong.
Yeah, but
The bell
dude,
curve.
That guy, you know, gets you like, all right, dude, or like,
Are you gonna stab me?
Are you gonna fucking
knock
pull
the
over?
camera over?
Yeah, fuck that.
Yeah, I was. Yeah. Well, he like intimidates a lot of women.
Yeah,
Like my wife runs around here and she's like freaked out by him.
yeah,
And I've found that if you get to him first, he'll back off.
Yep.
He's like a bully. Like you were saying you were bullied a lot as a young kid. I was too. I was kind of a small kid and in a neighborhood primarily Hispanic.
Yeah.
And I was like the only white kid.
Yeah.
So I was like pretty bullied. And my mom would always say, just like pick out the biggest guy in the group and like go up and like out alpha them.
yeah,
And that's usually a good way to deal with these bullies, right?
Yep.
Like you have to be a bigger alpha. And then the rest of them will kind of disintegrate. But with that guy, I've found when I'm riding and running up here, if you go to him first, like if you beeline for him, because he'll stop. I'll be running down the road and he'll stop in the middle of the road and just stare at me and start jumping
yeah.
around and shit.
oh yeah,
So what I do the same thing back at him. I beeline right for him. I say, hey, dude, hey, buddy, do you want to go? You want to run with me? You want to sprint? Let's sprint the next mile. You know, hey, are you doing okay today? You doing good? And like I engage him like positively, and he just shuts down and like won't look at me. You
Yep.
notice how he wasn't looking at me?
oh yeah,
Because he knows who I am.
Yeah.
He was honing in on you.
oh dude, he would not,
Yeah.
freaking stop looking at me. So yeah, he's a crazy guy.
But I thought by me engaging him there, he was just gonna
he did walk away
turn.
when you got up.
When I
and
got
walked.
up, and yeah. But
So then I
like,
got up.
But yeah, we yeah.
I'm a follower.
Yeah, you got up and then he like tried to
Sure,
beeline for you.
It's a fucking shirt.
Yeah. It sent him. In.
He's like, the 334.
Dude,
It's a fucking
that
shirt.
was something else. Talking about through Stargate in the middle of that. That was
Stargate?
my favorite sci-fi program.
But then he said altitude. And I was like, you're just fucking saying shit.
This is
You lost me at altitude.
total.
I believed everything you fucking said besides altitude IQ. Do you know what that is? And I
Yeah.
said, yeah, it's basically you said altitude 3 times, and then you said IQ at the end of it to sound smart.
Yeah. Oh my God. Okay. All right, dude. Let's do rapid fire questions.
Do it.
Oh, it's hilarious. What's your favorite in-race food?
In race, during race?
Yeah, during a race.
During race. Baby food.
What?
Baby food.
Like cheap spring
Squash.
energy.
Yeah. It's squash, sweet potato, and like you can buy it at Safeway.
Yeah.
Dude, big rides.
Like the pouches?
Baby food.
Are you serious?
Fucking food, man. It's literally the best. I feel the best. It's jet fuel.
Oh my
Because
God.
it's literally packed with vitamins and nutrients. It's not calorically dense,
Yeah.
but what it does is make me feel good. And like if I can feel good,
Yeah.
I perform good.
Dude,
Baby food.
didn't see that one coming. What's your favorite post-race food?
Lately, it's been a Mama Burger.
Yeah.
Two
Yeah.
Mama Burgers.
Nice. Protein?
Yeah, I've been
Yeah.
getting. I ate a burger and now I'm eating a lot of burgers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then it just,
Dude, I literally was vegetarian at the beginning of the year, and now I'm starting to
it
dabble
gotcha.
in meat.
Yeah, meat's good.
I'm eating a lot of it.
Meat's, dude, yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Okay, what's your spirit animal?
Fucking eagle. A fucking eagle.
Okay. I was gonna assign you flamingo based off that.
A
shirt,
flamingo?
but-
No, okay, I change it. It's a hawk.
Okay.
Dude, I had a hawk one time beeline it right to me in Sedona.
Really?
Like fucking like as if I was a mouse. He just pinned it and
Dude.
like right to me, right before he hits me, banks it.
It was like that's not
I-
not a mouse.
I fucking like literally flinched and like
Dude.
got off the rock. Like this guy's gonna come at me.
Yeah.
Hawk.
Could you imagine when those things were like 10-foot wingspans?
No, that's
big
crazy.
old talons doing that to
Yeah,
you.
No
dude?
way.
You're like trying to hide in a cave or some shit.
Yeah,
I think about that all the time.
dude, it would hurt. It would hurt you right now as a big,
yeah,
as a man.
it would
If he grabbed you or hit you at that Mach speed,
with that talon.
broken rib.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Dude, I talk about it on like every podcast. Predatory birds being 10 foot wide,
Yeah.
wingspan. You know.
Yeah.
It's fucking
that.
scary.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're riding your bike and just.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I do do that. I
Yeah.
get weirded out when I'm bike packing and I'm like,
Pterodactyls.
yeah, you got it. What's your endurance superpower?
Titanium taint.
Didn't see that one coming either.
I can endure the worst pain in my taint.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you have a extra like
Calloused.
Wolverine taint.
Callous taint.
Yeah,
Yeah. I went through all the ingrown hair stages, the zit stages. Now it's just fucking dry skin,
yeah.
calloused. Titanium
Chamois?
taint.
You wear a chamois.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But hey, I haven't tried squirrel's nut butter.
Yeah. Shout out Squirrels Nut Butter. You haven't.
No,
Oh,
well,
I'll get-
I have, but
I'll give you some samples.
it's
dude.
the best. But I
Yeah.
just can't, I forget.
Yeah.
I go on my ride. I'm like, fucking taint hurts again.
Yeah.
But I can get through that.
100-mile ride, you can get away with not a lot of chamois butter.
Yeah.
But you start getting into multi-day stuff, especially with the bacterial growth
Yeah.
on multi-day.
Cool.
It's got the tea tree oil, you know,
Yeah,
for
yeah.
antimicrobial.
Yeah.
Shout out.
Yeah.
Okay. What's your worst crash or fall?
I was drunk
Riding your bike?
riding my bike. Fuck,
Yeah.
dude, I don't crash. Like, knock on wood. I mean, I've been pretty successful, but I was looking at my fiance, and she was glowing in the golden hour sun, and I was right near Pizza Sletta after like 3 tower stations and hit a curb and
Yeah.
broke my wrist.
Oh,
Yeah.
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 Wearing a helmet?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Always.
Okay.
Always wearing a helmet. Always wear a helmet. Yeah.
Who inspires you?
My wife or my fiance. She's powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's an ultra runner.
She's an ultra runner, ultra mom. She's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keeps
Yeah,
everything
if I,
on the
if I
rails.
could be half of the person she is, I'd be stoked.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Have you had her on the pod yet?
No, dude, she's so introverted.
Okay.
Yeah, she
That'd be interesting.
she doesn't want to, but I'll get her on there one day.
Yeah.
Yeah. She wants to do the Stagecoach 100.
Okay.
And she also wants to sign up for Cocodona. She's gonna be an animal.
Nice, dude. She's going to run Stagecoach 100?
Yeah. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
God.
I ran 56 miles of it. So I did a duo with my wife.
Yeah.
And I did the first leg, the first 56 miles.
Yeah.
I felt like my legs were going to self-destruct.
They were
What's
just-
up, buddy? Hey.
We were just done.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. Worst pain I've ever had.
Yeah.
Anyway. Worst water source you've ever drank from?
Probably just the normal ditch irrigation that goes through. Yeah, I try to keep that good.
Yeah.
That's one thing that'll make me shit my brains out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bad water.
Bad water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of those questions you can definitely plead the fifth on if you want to.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I don't know, somewhat of a source of pride for some people and somewhat of a source of stupidity for others.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, all right. And last question is one piece of advice you'd give to a new endurance athlete.
Stay consistent. Stay consistent. If it's 10 miles, it's 10 miles. If it's 20, it's 20. Just don't ever try to think that you need to be somewhere. Just, it doesn't matter what bike you ride, doesn't matter what shoes you have or what kind of helmet you wear. You can ride any bike for as far as you think you need to.
Yeah. And
you'll have fun. And it just progresses.
Yep.
You'll learn what you need to go further, but consistency is key.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%, man. Cool.
What if you go to Starbucks, what's your favorite drink to get?
Oh, is this my rapid fire question?
Yep.
So I'll get either an Americano or a latte.
What kind of latte?
Just a regular one.
Just a regular one?
Yeah.
Okay, not like a sugar-free vanilla latte decaf.
No.
Oat milk.
I'll start sounding like that.
Yeah.
No.
I like
Gamma
to ask you,
Sigma.
you really get, because as a coffee guy, I would get some crazy stuff from some manly fucking dudes. Do you guys have a caramel macchiato? Like,
yeah.
do you guys have a caramel macchiato?
No. Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I do like sweet stuff,
Yeah.
but like I'm not much into sugar. Like normally in life, like I overdose on sugar during endurance events.
Yeah.
And then I basically like cut it out the rest of my life. So I really try to stay with just like Americano when I can, nothing else in it, you know?
Yeah.
And then the latte is like a treat, you know, because it's got that little bit of sweetness in it from the milk. So yeah. So
Do you still get afraid of the dark as an adult?
the first night bike packing,
It's a little scary.
dude, it's not, I wouldn't say it's scary. It's more like there's a self-preservation instinct that kicks in when you're out alone by yourself in the night. Something inside of you is like, get into a cave, get into a structure, get into something that has 3 walls so you can at least see what's coming. That first night, every time bike packing, every time.
Scary.
Unless I've gone 2 days without sleeping, gone through the night, and I'm into the second night,
Yeah.
then nothing fucking matters. I'll just lay down in a ditch and fucking fall asleep.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter at all. Like, on Pinions and Pines, I just, like, laid down on the side of the road. No bag or anything. I just, like, laid down on an embankment thing. And there was, like, side-by-sides driving by and shit. And I was just
Is that guy dead?
Yeah. I mean, they were like, yeah, dude, stuff crawling all over me.
Yeah.
Like, I did not care.
That's funny.
And I hadn't even stayed up that long. I was just basically, I had slept for 4 hours and I was into the second night. So I had gotten decent sleep the night before.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm afraid of the dark every first night of bike packing.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. What
I'm
else?
only afraid of the dark if my fiance's gone or my dog's gone.
Oh yeah. Isn't that weird?
Dude.
Like, what are they going to do? Well, your dog could
Paranormal
protect
activity
you, but-
from when I watched it when 14 fucking starts coming into my brain. I'm like, damn it.
Do you like lock all the doors and close all the windows?
Oh, I locked the doors, but dude, I'm definitely hearing shit. You know, like
yeah.
10-year-old sleeper kid
Yeah.
comes back out like, oh shit, what was
Yeah.
that? You know, I'm a fucking grown man. I'm tough. You know.
I had my wife wake me up the other day and tell me there was something making noise in the attic. Yeah.
You're like, the fuck, I'm going up there.
Yeah, dude.
Like,
Yeah.
You're tougher than me. You go up
Yeah,
there.
I was like, you ran Cocodona twice.
Yeah.
Here, take a knife.
Yeah,
Good
yeah.
luck. Here's a knife and a
I know,
headlamp.
that's so funny, dude. Like we're supposed to be like the man of the house, but dude, my wife was like, someone's trying to get in the front door. I'm like, cool, go see what it is.
Yeah.
No, you need to go. Fuck that. Call the
Yeah.
cops. No, I'd say that, but I'd probably like get back in like instinctual, like back in the dead, puff up my chest a little bit.
Yeah. I'm armed. So
I usually have 2 guns.
yeah. I'm a true Arizona boy.
Yeah,
so yeah. If anybody tries to get into my house, it's not gonna be good.
No.
But an animal in the attic, that's a different story.
Yeah,
there was
definitely.
nothing up there, dude. It was like birds on the outside scratching on the window or something. She made me go up there and like crawl around, and I literally like opened it up and stuck my head in, Like, is something gonna just like, you know, like I don't know.
Yeah, your brain.
I was afraid of the dark in that scenario, but anyway.
dude.
All right, let's wrap this up.
Let's do it, man.
All right, so let's see. Let's promote Stoke Podcast.
Stoke
of course,
Podcast.
on Instagram also,
Yep, Stoke Podcast.
and everywhere you get your podcasts, and you are on YouTube.
I am on YouTube.
Cool.
Yep.
And if people want to do some real estate with you, they can hit you up for that.
Oh,
too.
dude, yeah, definitely. If you guys need a list of property, see what your property's worth. If you're looking to buy, if you have any questions on it, please, you can hit us up. My broker's Caldwell Banker Northland. So you can just give them a call, say, hey, I need to talk to Quinn.
Yeah.
I'll definitely help you out.
Dude, you were so dapper in your photo on
thanks.
Instagram
Thanks.
with your suit on.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's a different dude. Look at
I
him.
know, man.
Got
You
his
gotta-
hair all.
Yeah, you gotta, please a certain client, But if they saw me like after 100 miles, they'd be like, fuck, I'm not doing real estate with that crackhead.
They'd be like, maybe he'll work. They'd probably think like, oh, okay, he can endure some pain.
Yeah.
So he'll
Oh
be a
yeah,
good
dude.
guy
You call
for
me any time of the day, dude. You're getting help. That's
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
I'll go mile to mile for you.
Cool, man.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much it was an amazing conversation.
Yeah. God, such a blast. This is
And,
a sick setup.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's, whatever information you want, dude, I'm willing to share as much to
Cool.
raise all ships,
I'm down.
So
We need to get together and go on a ride.
absolutely.
Yep.
I will. I want to see what some of these Arizona Endurance Series
I know.
rides. So, yeah.
I will.
Yeah.
I'll get into it again.
I'll give you a heads up when they're coming up. All right.
Cool.
Remind you. So.
Yeah.
All right, Quinn. Thanks, buddy.
Hey, thanks.
All right.
That was stellar, Dylan. Appreciate you.
Have a good one.
Yeah, you too.